Hello and welcome to day 4 of PUBG Mobile National Championship Bangladesh region. All thanks to Oppo F19 Pro for making it happen. Once again, of course, you're joined in with me, Blotto, as well as Ankit to take you through the journey. And I mean, again, Ankit, we've had first 3 days where it was a complete dhamaka that was showcased from these groups, but now this is where the final journey leads down towards, right? Because these next 3 days will define what 16 teams will move on forth.
I mean, definitely, as it is perfectly mentioned, the next 3 days that will be getting back-to-back actions. But before that, it will be a day where A and B will be getting head-to-head. And when now A and B gets locks their horn, it is going to be A1 Esports coming into the fray, and also teams like
True.
VNM Legends. So if we draw that conversation towards A1 Esports, the way they have been playing till now, they have been absolutely phenomenal. 10 total matches they have played, 142 total points, still on the top. But the question still remains: will other team be trying to aggress and play a different sort of ball game and strategies? Because we saw in certain games in the first 3 games of semifinals that A1 Esports still they are on the top, but the way they have dominated the quarterfinals and also the sort of gameplay that we have seen, do other team have something else for them prepared?
Absolutely, because again, so perfectly mentioned by you that when it comes down from quarterfinals into the semifinals itself, the gameplay has changed from those other teams.
Yeah.
They are bringing up their level of play, and that is something that's crucial as you move on along. But along with that, talking about cruciality, you do have $30,000 on the line. So of course, all the teams that are participating right now, we have of course 24 teams, but as was just mentioned, only 16 teams, the top 16 teams by the end of this weekend that we have on the leaderboard will move on for to participate in the $30,000 prize pool. So yes, there's a lot on stake, there's a lot on the line, and of course these teams are slowly and steadily certainly trying to get the best of the best gameplay that they possibly can showcase.
Exactly, they are looking up to get all these numbers and all these top 16 slots that they want for, and this is a standard placement point system that we have witnessing for the last one or more than year, I guess. So because until now, each and every team have been acclimatized to all these total placement points that they get. So 18 to 12 get just 1 points, 15 total points for the team that gets chicken keeps decreasing, and 13 to 16 none. So we have seen in the past teams like certain teams have relied upon on the kill strategies if placement points actually don't work. We'll talk about this later, but let's see with the schedule that is also going to be pretty much the same. Erangel, Miramar, Erangel, Sanhok, and Erangel. So 5 games for the day, and 3 games certainly the Erangel, and then the void between each Erangel is filled by the off maps of Miramar and Sanhok. So teams like A1 Esports will be really looking up to go forward because they have the strong suit in Erangel as compared to the other 2 maps that we get to see in the fray, and that is going to be of Miramar and Sanhok. But certain teams also are going to be chiming in, as we have seen TRZ Esports. And the moment we say, we get to see the squad roster where we get to see A1 Esports right there on the top, but just beneath them, also on the placement points, also in the overall ranking, we get to see TRZ Esports. So, what do you think TRZ Esports have in their back today for the rest of the lobby?
Well, I certainly hope greatness is what is in store for them today because, again, TRZ Esports is a aggressive team that has showcased some wonderful plays for themselves. So has actually TRZ RA as well in the recent past. And of course, that is another team that we will like to see bring in the best level of play that is possible for them to participate in the top 16. For now, they certainly are doing some same along for goes for the BIP team as well. But as we progress on along, DoD, now this is where teams that have not really been able to showcase the kind of prowess that is needed from them and certainly do not find themselves in a decent position. But hopefully by the end of the weekend itself, things will change for them. But as you move on to the overall ranking right now, this is where you were just mentioning that A1 Esports have created a lead for themselves, have gotten 3 chicken dinners in the 10 games that they have played in the semi-finals. But once again, 10 more games are remaining for the entirety of the lobby. And so, of course, the conversation will be what team will try and benefit off of those. Of course, today we just saw that Group A and B are going to be playing. That means your esports is going to be part of the lobby as well as VNM Legends, and that is something that, of course, the competition makes it that much more precarious for the other teams to be able to participate in or try and take the aggressive stance from these teams. But in the first 3 days, the other teams have been really phenomenal as well. As we can clearly see, I mean, DRZ Esports find themselves in the third position. So there is a lot that can be expected from these other teams, apart from, of course, the legends, so to say.
Exactly, there were certain things that I would really like to talk about TRZs, but especially so TRZ is sitting at 122. They have the lowest kill tally in the top 5 that teams actually have. and the second highest total placement points. That completely shows that TRZ Esports are a team that bring all the 3 to 4 players in the last circle and certainly looks to go for the placement points. If the fight that they take in the last game stage, if they actually goes in the favor, then it's a game end for them, and they try to get close towards the chicken dinner, and they do so because they still have just one chicken out of the total 10 games played. So maybe I can guess that since they have worked well on their placement points, it's just the kill points that they work upon and the firepower that TRZ Esports all together bring in, especially the stalking player, the emerging player, I would say, Mamba Noob. It is certainly looking promising for TRZ Esports, but some of the teams are also in the fray as BhaiBrother's will be joining the lobby, Oxygen, Silent Cloud, and none of the team, to be honest, but will be in a situation to feel themselves comfortable at this position where they're sitting from 17 to 24 because we know, everybody knows, the player knows, and the crowd knows that it's just the top 16 that will be aggressing for the finals.
Absolutely. And again, I mean, another point to add on to that is going to be the point distribution and difference between that 17th position holder, that's BhaiBrother's with 50 points, to the 24th position holder, AcidDEFIANT, with 15 points. So
Exactly.
there's the opportunity for the next 10 games that or these teams have on the final page of the leaderboard, rather the entire lobby, of course, has. But to cross along with that bigger difference is not an easy thing to achieve. But again, shouldn't really speak much because we have seen BFS bring that sort of a gameplay. We've seen AcidDEFIANT bring that sort of a gameplay as well. But now the conversation will be, is it too late? Is it just too late for them to climb up on top? Because the other teams in the top position, as well as the second page of the leaderboard, are already playing their level best. So the point is getting away every single game. So making it that much
Exactly.
more of a crucial opportunity that these teams need to take. But in that conversation, as you bring us to the head-to-head that is being displayed on our screen, UnstoppableX, Ankit. Now, this is another team that just completely blasted off in the
Yeah.
semi-finals. Wouldn't you agree?
Exactly, I would, because the way they actually showcased the performance back to back chicken, we never expected them that they would be on the top. And then it was A1 Esports that came and chimed in. And before that, it was certainly that A1 Esports was having the point difference between them and Unstoppable that was pretty much less. And just because of that, A1 Esports did perform very good in the last match. And I guess they got the chicken, or maybe close to chicken. It was the team that got the chicken in the last game of day three of the semifinals.
Yep.
Then they were able to unstoppable. But as you perfectly mentioned, they blasted off the lobby back to back chicken in the game of Erangel and the rest of the map, and then it was certainly looking promising. Now just imagine the way Unstoppable X, the gameplay that they have actually maneuvered, especially in the semifinals. They were definitely not a team that we would have eyed upon to be at least in the top three or top five. But look at this. They have learned from their mistakes. They have learned that how to create and uh, just lessen the gap, the wall that gets created between them and the rest of the team. And just because of that, they can get to see them on the second spot. So now we all know it's 20 game for each and every team for the semifinals. They are on the half of the stage and they have already crossed that 127, 128 marks. That means they have hit the century. All I can look up to is to maybe they can get close towards that 200 placement points. I won't actually expect them to go all YOLO because at the end of the day, it seemed that till now the point that they have secured 128, it's a granted place for them for the semifinals, but they will be also looking to prepare for the rest of the matches for the finals and also to compete against big names and big players of A1 Esports and Venom Legends that will be in action for today's game.
Most certainly. And again, I mean, it's a very interesting journey that certain teams have showcased. Like we were just talking about Unstoppable X. Same again, going back to the quarterfinal days, we had Python, right? Now, Python Esports also at one point of time during those quarterfinals just completely demolished the entire lobby on that particular day, right? As we move
Exactly.
on along, we saw that same sort of a gameplay coming in from the side of T4M as well. There was, I mean, certain teams have had those wonderful moments, those spark of moments throughout. But
Yeah.
again, it always goes down towards the teams that are consistent itself. And TRZ Esports, as you perfectly have been mentioning again and again, are consistent, no question about it. A1 Esports, well, we
Exactly.
know for a fact that they are here to dominate. Same can be said, of course, for VNM
And
Legends. But yes, Ankit.
also adding more to the fact that A1 Esports have played it brilliantly to its own prowess, to its own merit. But TRZ Esports, they are not much away beyond that. We just saw they are
True.
just 20 points behind them. So today will be surely an action-packed game because we are getting to see teams like A1 Esports, Unstoppable, that have started getting into the momentum. TRZ Esports, that is also a team that has been in the frame of thick and thins, and they are closing down towards the lead. So now today, the first game, I'll be really waiting to see. Maybe we can get to see those early actions because whenever Group A comes into play, we get those early fights. What do you have to say about this, Gloria?
Well, talking about early fights itself, we are looking at the flight path that has taken us from the military base all the way towards Kamishki area, towards the eastern side of the map, the northeastern side of the map itself. And again, there are 5 games that will be played today. So right now, of course, as we get started off with the first match itself, the action is going to be absolutely on point, or rather, is at least what I expect from these teams, because that is what is required from them to do so to be able to participate in the top 16. And with that, of course, once again, we do find IPG going down to their known drop location of Nova Reply. Very seldom have we seen them change that drop location based on the fight path. They either choose Nova Reply, which is, well, 80% of the times, and then 20% we see them go down towards the Georgia Pole region. So IPG, of course, will be finding themselves on the military base. Alongside them is, of course, going to be T4M as well. Now, talking about the circle, a very standard circle being dropped on in the first game of Erangel right here. As we move on along, talking about the teams that are going to find themselves not in the zone, well, there aren't many, of course. We do see Silent Cloud on towards the eastern side, towards Lipovka, but once again, they're going to be very, very close when it comes down to the rotation itself. But talking about that rotation, going down to the very Pier region is where we find, of course, TRZ. Now, this team does go for really, really late rotations, and again, we'll have to see today what sort of a gameplay will they be bringing to the table.
Oh, exactly. You just perfectly mentioned teams have started dropping towards the drop location. I'll be waiting to see how IPG now crosses the bridge. If because these sort of circle tends to go onto the main island. Just imagine Team 4M might getting camped because in the past we have seen TRZ players look up to go towards those camping areas on the military bridge. But just imagine if RudeDude just on a certain day, maybe it's a today, because they have been knowing that IPG has time and again go has went to the area of Novorupna. Say if they might to go towards the same area, this is something that I'll be looking up to, and then they will be in a sort of limbo position because IPG we have again and again seen them going down towards the same area. And do they have any sort of other proposition, other idea, other plan B that they can come into play and that can come into handy for certain? But for now, it seems that none of the fights are breaking off. Each and every player are just dropping to the same and favorite drop location as we've seen in the past. XBROTHERS going down to the area of Rozok and the compounds that are in the nearby vicinity. Fazal, we can get to see him spotted on the screen. And so now XBROTHER, this is also a team that has been looking promising, but since the rest of the teammates have now started dominating the lobby, just we saw Unstoppable in the third day of semi-final and other teams, it is bound to teams like XBROTHERS to getting those numbers slipped in forms of total placement points that they have for now. But I'm sure that today there will be 5 games for them, and once they come into action, they will be happily taking all the fights and at least securing themselves in the top 8 or top 9 because they're not much far away from that. We're talking about some other teams, just example of Mortem. So now Mortem is also a team that did secure the semi-final slot, but this was a team that did secure the slot, but at a very later stage. Till now, we haven't got to see some extraordinary gameplay that we talk about, but I would really love to see will they be able to secure themselves in the top 18, under the top 16 or not, because for now, they are on the 15th spot, and all what they can imagine and expect for their gameplay is to not at least let that position slip away.
Well, that is so true indeed. Again, with that same conversation pushing on along towards BFS, another team that finds themselves in the latter half of the leaderboard. And of course, in the 17th to 24th position is what this team is in currently. But right now, of course, we can expect the same sort of a gameplay from them as well as they have showcased earlier. Just try and go for those placement points. And of course, surely the team might just be able to climb away from those so to say red zone location on the top leaderboard itself. But another team that I am noticing, I mean, we are only playing with 15 teams. So one team that has not jumped in. I have been gauging my eyes towards all the teams that are supposed to participate from Group A and B, and it is, if I'm not mistaken, AcidDEFIANT. So
Okay.
could it just be the AcidDEFIANT teammates have not entered because they've already accepted defeat? Or, I mean, I hope not, but it is a conversation to be had. 10 games you play
Exactly.
and only 15 points you are able to collect for yourself. So yeah, there's a lot that needs to be improved in terms of the gameplay itself. But the only kind of solution that I'm able to think about in my mind is that hopefully they'll be able to chime in the next game. And it was just maybe some connection issue that resulted in them not being a part of this game. But yeah, with that,
Hope
we
so.
of course, like I said, 15 teams are in the lobby, and as a defined, as of now, nowhere to be seen.
Exactly. I was so much into the conversation that I really didn't take notice of that one team hasn't joined the lobby. But thanks to that extreme spotting level by not only in the gameplay but also on the team lobby, the team that have joined in, it seems that AcidDEFIANT sadly haven't been the part of this game. But I would really love to see the rest of the four games. Will they be playing? Will they not be? We'll get to see once they come into action. But if they have intentionally not played this game, this is something that is not acceptable because okay, it's okay that you falter down in the last 10 matches, but at a certain day, you still have those opportunities because we have seen in the past in the
True.
semi-final, in the quarterfinals, that the point difference between the team that just qualifies and the team that doesn't qualify is not pretty much. So at a certain day, if just a pinch of luck favors you, things can really turn good for you. But for now, uh, let's see what happens to them in the next game when they come into frame. But VNM Legends, they have been conquering the area of Pachinki and Void, Steel Shot, Flypan, Nightwing, extremely looting all these areas and getting acclimatized to all those vehicles. And it becomes important in the early stage of the game to get hold of all those vehicles. At least if you are a four-man squad, if you are still surviving with four-man squad, get at least three vehicles because it's really get tough in the later part of the game where you don't get to see much of vehicles because it's already looted by other players.
That is so true indeed, and that is something that, of course, the entire lobby is right now working towards. We have not yet seen any first blood, and of course, if I'm not mistaken, that is the case only because these teams have been playing against each other for such a long time that now they already know what to expect from the drop locations and the rotations themselves. Now, with that, we move on to another team that has actually performed really, really well for themselves, and that is going to be the team of TRZRA from the likes of course, Pew Pew and Scorpion and Sabir and all.
Yeah.
They in the quarterfinals were not looking too comfortable as they jumped in against these teams, but over the period have certainly improved their play style quite a lot. Of course, there's a lot more that can be expected from them. Same should be the conversation for DoD Esports as well, because DoD Esports players, as of now, once again jump into the game with again a three-man army. So
Yeah.
this team certainly do need those points. They are not looking good when it comes down to the overall rankings. They need to participate in the top 16, but to be able to do so, they definitely need to have at least the four players
Here we
that
go,
have already
brother.
registered, right?
It's Mama Noob on our screen. Sorry to interrupt you, but
Yep.
the moment this player actually flashes on screen, he brings out the memory, the clutches that he's done in the past in the semifinals also, and the way he is running out in the open, it seems that he's just hungry for all those fleshes to carve out of those enemies' body.
That is so true, mate. But once again, I mean, we did mention that when it comes to the rotation of that team, they love to go for those late rotations, and they waited for the final moment before the blue zone could hit them. They then started to move that rotation along, and of course, that is something that we'll have to see if will work in their favor or not. Along with that, talking about T4M, a team that had moved on down towards the military base, is going to be jumping in to get themselves away from that acclimated area as well. And now it is IPGx, another team that has been really, really brilliant when it comes down to the aggressive stances
Exactly.
on certain days, right? On certain days.
Exactly on certain end, and they have been consistent with the total points. If you have to just talk about that, because IPG they started their journey off pretty well, but sudden down the line, somewhere down the line, they just lost the momentum because it's then the other team that starts retaliating with the prowess that they have it for now. But let's have a look at the zone that has tilted on the western side. That means Team 4M will be having a safe passage until unless TRZ tries to gatekeep the situation. But look at this. TRZ, we're talking about this team that more often they don't get to have that privilege of the zone. But for now, it seems that the rest of the players will be joining in the frame. But RudeDude also going for those early rotations. But the question is, will Bots and Pajamas will be making a safer entry or not? Everything seems to look pretty fine, but in the center of the circle, we can get to see a lot of team that is trying to contest in its own way. But Mortem, they have already spotted on the player. They are trying to keep the sprays onto the players of IPG. It's Dictator again on the TV screens, and this is a player that have been really showcasing the performance that we really want to see. If we talk about IPG, other players are already there. We have gotten to see Mahfouz, Sensei, and rest of the teammates. But Dictator has been the standout performer in the past, and in this gameplay also, where we tried to brought on some shots, but realizing this that he might be caught on the open. And look at this, the player have already gone for that slam in. And I guess it was a pretty decent decision for Mortem's player that was trying to take down the players of IPG. So one thing daughter IPG has made sure that if they are being peppered down by some leads, they will be retaliating. They will be surely retaliating. As for now, we can get to see down in that overall list, and maybe these sort of gameplays can help them get close to the top 5 or top 3 at the end of today's gameplay.
That could certainly be the case. Again, when it comes down to the skill level, we know for a fact that IPG's players certainly do have the skill that they're able to convert into a lot of points in terms of the kills, as
Exactly.
well as, of course, getting the situational hold and awareness that works in their favor. But now, as we move on to another team that we so badly want to be able to have that situational awareness and fights go in their favor, is going to be DoD. Right here, we do see AJ and Bad Secret having created a compound for themselves and trying to now push on to the team, or not even push on, just to safeguard the compound that they have called their own against the players of TRZ. Not going to be an easy task because they are a three-man squad and TRZ is a four-man army that will be creating some flank angles for themselves. AJ as well as Bad Secret have a lot to take cover of. With that, the first blood being brought on thanks to, of course, XBROTHERS right here. And the fight that they took on was a bit of a rotation based fight apparently, and of course has not favored the receiving team, which seems
Exactly.
like was TRZRA.
Exactly, it was TRZR as is perfectly mentioned, and they are looking pretty much strong for the moment. We just saw a moment ago where they're trying to make a rotation on the edge of the circle. Some players were in a split situations, and he was just waiting for the rest of the players to make an entry. But I would really want to see where the circle will be actually forming and have my eyes set upon. Because for now, if the circle favors X Brothers just for a moment, they will be safely finding themselves in the third shift. That means they don't have to move an inch away from that. But certainly the circle is going to be going away from the southern island and maybe towards the area on the left hand side, on the western side of Pochinki, where we get to see, because not much of enough and we get to see the Pochinki circle, but still the circle really reminds me the day one, game one of the semifinals, where the same sort of circles were there, where it was bots in pajamas that tried to dominate. It was Team 4M, and again, all the teams that were alive in the same game, the semifinals game, they are alive. So, can this be a deja vu moment for them? If so, it will be certainly those teams that will be getting benefit of it. But where is A1 Esports? A1 Esports are still at the spot that they used to drop towards, those six houses, those ridges where they get to play, and they didn't move an inch from that. So this is certainly A1 Esports have in their favor for now, and get to see VNM Legends players are really facing the brunt of the situation. And guess what? It's A1 Esports in the fray.
Well, they are the ones taking on the fight. Two players have already been knocked from the side of Venom, and of course, that is the kind of case that Sinister has showcased right here. And of course, bringing up that nade towards these vehicles is certainly going to be bringing down a lot more damage to the players of Venom Legends. They did make a wonderful rotation from the eastern northern side of the into the circle itself, and were really swift and quick. But now they find themselves against the players of A1 Esports, who were just so very dominating. But Nightwing has been able to retaliate that push against the players of A1 Esports, has been able to convert two those of the push bring bottom down from the side of A1 Esports. And now, of course, it is going to be on to Jax and 6ix9ine Boy to get that retaliation showcased. Of course, get that revival along with that. But will that be enough? Because Nightwing is the only man surviving for the moment.
He really brought the A1 Esports brought down to the knee. He had that flank angle, but all thanks to the onslaught that came in from the sides of A1 Esports. But the way, the quickness with which rest of the players got the revival, that was just absolutely spot on. And A1 Esports, in a while, they got all those three kills. And I guess it was IPG from the backhand side that really pushed Venom Legends player on the back foot and on the backhand side, and it was all done for them. But talk about BFS. So this is also a team that really needs all those points. Team has been on the thick and thin of its own course and its own throughout the course of the tournament, but for now they are facing the brunt of the blues, and they surely need to find themselves sooner or later in the zone. But on the other hand side, So now A1 Esports have completely dominated the lobby till now. They have got those early three kills. They have gotten those fresh bloods in the early stage of the game, and most importantly, they are holding the center lines of the circle, and holding those ridges can really be handy in such sort of circles where the circle tends to go in an open shift where you don't get to see much compounds. And A1 Esports getting favored to where they actually drop down to, this is where that they can actually capitalize upon the momentum that they are having for now. On the other hand, it's XBROTHER that is facing the brunt of the blues, and also RudeDude that is trying to gatekeep the situation. Fardeen and Flex is also trying to brought down the players on the sides of XBROTHERS on their knees. But will XBROTHERS will survive this onslaught? We'll get to know. It seems that some players have made those extreme rotations just to find themselves in a safe spot, but still two players are stuck in this barn house. And yes, here we go. King realizing the fact that he can no more give the revival, and he doesn't have a lot of first aid that can help him. Even if he give the revival and he cannot face the brunt of it, he decides to tend to go away from it. But the circle certainly favors again teams like IPG, TRZ coming in from the eastern side, and A1 Esports. So now this is a game that A1 Esports need to have in their back, and we've talked about this a lot in the past. A1 Esports have become the zone magnets, to be honest.
They always are. I have no idea how they do it, but they always do it, and they are able to bring that circle working in their favor as the game pushes on along. With that, of course, as the game moves on, we are gonna have to keep our eyes open towards the players of course, Mortem right here, as well as XBROTHERS, who we just did see Venom from XBROTHERS was sent back into the lobby based on, of course, RudeDude's wonderful gatekeeping situation that resulted in them walking away with a kill. But that was it. That is all RudeDude were allowed, and XBROTHERS were able to get away from that retaliation that was showcased from RudeDudes. But now, as they jump into the circle out in the open, this is where tough luck sort of a situation will be brought on against them, as well as we do have other teams right next to them making that rotation as well. DoD in front of them, alongside which it is an all-out war now in this zone, because after all, it is going to be open, and it is going to be BIP who's chiming in to bring those wonderful plays. And sprays, talking about sprays, it is going to be, well, TRZ that has brought down the players of RudeDude as they made that rotation based on the kill feed.
I mean, exactly as you perfectly mentioned, they are bringing down the players to the knees. But DoD, the player, this started the team as a whole started the match with just three men in the frame. One player getting eliminated. Now they have just two players alive, and they can go for those safe approach. But the players from sides of DoD, Genius and AG are completely different split situation. Where if a player is taken down, the revival is certainly not the case. But on the other side, it's TRZ punishing down the players of RudeDude. The grenade has come in, and before that, the player was already knocked in the situation. And I guess this is something that will be hurting the chance of RudeDude. On the other hand, it's A1 Esports that is really making it tough for TRZ to survive in this situation, and the players are slowly and steadily getting towards the kill. TRZ Scorpion takes down the meme on the other hand, and this is the other line of TRZ, and that is going to be of TRZ RA. But for now, it's TRZ Esports Mamba Noob that is patching himself up with those utilities and those medics for now. But Atomic has been pulled down. That means it all comes down to STFU and FPS and Mama Noob if all the three gets the revival. But it is getting really trickier and trickier for the rest of the teammates. But look at this. A1 Esports were at this place a moment ago, but the quickness with which they just fell back, it seemed that they have some certain plans for playing these sort of zones.
They most certainly do. And talking about the zone itself, BFS do not find themselves in the comfort of the zone, at least not all the players, as they made that really late rotation, have resulted in so many of their players being sent back into the lobby. As we do see Turgut onto our minimap making that water rotation all by himself, trying to once again go for those placement points. And right here, it is Aeon Esports that is just bringing an all-out war, and Sinister again and again with those nade parades being brought on against the opponent teams is bringing in so many kills for himself and the entirety of the team. With all four players alive, this team is looking absolutely phenomenal to be able to take this game in their favor. But talking about the zone has moved away, just a little bit away from the side of A1 Esports, as they found themselves in the center, not so much anymore. But with that, talking about the zone itself, that is probably going to be the first priority that we shall see A1 Esports try and rush on towards. And yes, that will be the case. Smoke has been deployed, and they will be moving on to get themselves in the comfort. Along with that, RG Mamba right here taking on the fight to the players of RudeDude as well, because RudeDude find themselves, well, at the brink of almost annihilation. Well, the circle is not favoring them. They need to get into the center of the zone as much as they possibly can. But right now, of course, it is going to be Rare FPS as well as his teammate SCFU, who will be left to take on this push that, of course, was showcased from the side of Mamalu.
Definitely, but it's really looking pretty much tough for Mortem Pajamas to make an entry. They were trying to make an entry from the northern side, but they were constantly being pinned down by A1 Esports a moment ago. But now IPG realizing the situation, they are trying to pull them down. But on the other side, they have gotten some big blows as Boston Pajamas, Mr. BBC, and Wipeout were trying to do so until and unless it was a game in for them. 7 kills already into the name of IPG, and we were talking about this team that they have gotten those gun powers. They have been aggressive in the past. They have played to their best. Will they be able to? Here we are in the early stage of the game where we get close to the 20 minutes. They already have 7 to 8 kills. So now it comes down to now how they play the rest of the match for now, because this now they have eliminated one of the players, and the biggest threat for them now that is gonna be of A1 Esports. If they get a better half of A1 Esports, there is certainly looking a good chance for them to getting close to chicken. On the other hand, it's RudeDude that's still surviving the onslaught that was coming in, not only from the sides of TRZ, but also from the sides of Team 4M and BFS that were on the back end side for now, but they have gone for the rotation. But look at this, the circle has completely gone to an area where the teams would actually love to find themselves into, and slowly and steadily TRZ's players are falling down, but still it's FPS and STFU, as you mentioned earlier, they are still surviving. RudeDude, on the other hand, they're just waiting. They just don't need to do anything. They're just waiting that if the circle forms, then we will be going for a certain sort of rotation. For now, it seems that BhaiBrother's B is completely pinned down. All he can just hope is to not let grenade come in and have a safe haven with that big rock that is standing right in front of him.
Well, I mean, it is Silent Cloud who also find themselves in the comfort of the water for the moment, and they do know that there is a player right next to them that they are trying to bring down. But apart from that, there's not a lot that they can bring in terms of the onslaught. Again, when you talk about the water itself, now the circle has moved away from them, and thus it is going to be tough luck sort of a situation for the side of these teams that are trying to find themselves in the water area. But alongside that, it is Rude's players who are actually going to keep that gatekeep that rotation coming in from those teams who found themselves in the water, and will try and convert those into points. Another team to talk about is going to be DoD. Very, very passive approach with only a 3-man squad that they jumped in, moved on down to 2 players left. That was, of course, AJ and his teammate, but eventually has still been able to keep themselves alive with 10 teams remaining. 22 minutes in, this is looking absolutely dominating play coming in from the teams that are gatekeeping the water situation. And of course, it is XBROTHERS who also find themselves very close to the same area that we saw RudeDude a few minutes earlier in. But it is only the final player that is, of course, going to be Sherlock from the side of XBROTHERS as he pushes on. He's heard the audio cue and is now going to try and retaliate. He was the final player off the side of Silent Cloud. RageKid is the one. And of course, the information has been given away to both these players. Now the conversation is who will take that early lock and who will take that early spray.
Exactly, it is gonna be a 1v1 affair between XBROTHERS and RageKid. But the moment we're talking about all these fights, we just missed that it was A1 Esports that was really denting on IPG, and suddenly, all of a sudden, IPG have just been brought down to 1 player. But look at this, Silent Cloud really finding themselves in the right spot and trying to eliminate the player, but certainly when they were trying to make an entry, they just got some leads peppered onto themselves, and that was their elimination. Now it comes down to how Sincere survives the onslaught that is coming in from the sides of A1 Esports, and trust me, this is not going to be an easy task for him. And here we go, one more elimination. A1 Esports reigning supreme in this match of Erangel. The first game, day 4 of semi-final. A1 Esports doing pretty much strong, but my eyes will again go on to the player of TRZ, and I really have a very good feeling that TRZ Esports can really have a very good game for now, because for now, till now in this match, they have been holding themselves away from all these fights. They have been hearing all the sound cues. It's not that they are not concerned. It's not that they are not knowing. They are knowing every sort of thing. It's now all how they find themselves away from these compounds if the circle tends to go away from themselves. But you need to give credit to the guys of RudeDude. The way they have held the grounds, the use of utilities have been used to perfection.
It most certainly has. Same can be said, of course, for DoD as well. I mean, we do have so many teams right here in the lobby, but again, there are only 2-man squads that we see from all of them, apart from, of course, A1 Esports. And A1 Esports is Jax and 69 Boy, and they've all been so spectacular that, of course, anything can go in their favor. Well, this game most certainly looks like it will, but along with that, RudeDude is yet
Devon,
not done, as they
circle.
have spotted the players of DoD, and this could be instant annihilation for DoD because the circle is slowly and steadily, of course, going to be moving away from them. They find themselves in the blue zone, and in doing so, on the other tangent, it is going to be TRZ's players that are moving on to take the players of TRZRA down. And with that one knock that TRZRA players were able to get, they have been eliminated on the 5th spot.
So they have eliminated one team with a grenade, and now they are getting the taste of the same medicine that they may taste the rest of the player, and it was of TRZRA. But for now, it's Ferdinand versus STFU. Which player will take other player down? That is gonna be depending upon how TRZ's players are retaliating onto this. But one thing that can go in favor of TRZ is they have the support of these bunkers, and they really can find themselves in the same situation. But on the other hand, in A1 Esports, that is really making tough for RudeDude, as they have already taken 2 players down. And if this grenade connects and gets close, even close to that window, this will be a really tough situation. In all these situations, it is DoD that is getting the privilege and the advantage, because RudeDude all of a sudden have gotten their attention a lot onto the players of TRZ, and DoD have a real good chance getting close to the second point. On the other hand, it was A1 Esports that took the player down from the sides of RudeDude, and not only them, it was also one other team. And finally, it was a chicken that we preempted, that we expected to go into the favor of A1 Esports. I mean, every time A1 Esports comes into the frame, they try to defy the odds. The base circle tried to find themselves again and again. They became the zone magnet till the end, find themselves in a 2-1 split where 6-9 was completely dominating. 12 kills right off the go, 27 total points, 2290 damage. And I'm sure that after this total point placement points, they will be making a lead, because it was not Unstoppable that will be playing in today's lobby, and the rest of the players, rest of the teams are quite down in the overall rank. So A1 Esports, right off the go, we have seen in the past how frequently they get close towards the chicken, and finally they got that in the first game of day 4 semi-finals.
Well, be the one. A1 is the case right here, and that is what they've showcased in the first game itself, of course. With that, talking about the MVP, it is going to be Sinister. We saw him again and again, every single time the camp panned to the team of A1 Esports. It was Sinister who was bringing on that onslaught from the fight he took against the players of course, VNM Legends, to the fight that was brought on down towards the players of IPG. Just absolute dominating play from the Slad with 5 kills, 945 damage that he was able to dish out, and 2 assists along with that. So, again, in 24.5 minutes, that is some bonkers stats that, of course, Sinister from A1 Esports has been able to showcase. Along with that, as we move on to the top 4 players, it is going to be 3 players from A1 Esports itself. We've got Dante right here, we've got Dax right here, but on the 3rd spot, it is going to be Mehfooz YT from IPGx. Another wonderful set of events for IPG, because they were able to get quite a lot of points in terms of the kills itself, right? Like 7 kills is what they were able to confirm.
Yeah.
At least last I remember, in the 20-minute marker, and
Yep.
perfect turn of events.
Exactly as you perfectly mentioned, 7 kills what they secured till that moment. We'll get to see once how much total point they have secured, but I'm for sure that they will be closing down the lead, because before this match they were on a 6th position, and after this they will not only be hitting the century mark, also getting close towards the teams that were standing or still standing above them. We'll get to see, because it was VNM Legends that were eliminated in the early stage of the game, and I guess it was VNM Legends that was still on the top with quite a lot of points that they did secure in the last game. But we get to see a lot of teams securing those placement points in this, and we get to see DRZ Esports getting the total of 16 points. IPG, as you perfectly mentioned, 7 kills out of 4 placement points. So now this 11th placement point is gonna be helping them for sure, because it actually matters how you start off the day.
It most certainly does. And again, I mean, talking about the start to the day itself, A1 Esports starting off with getting a massive lead with those 27 points that we added on to the tally. So, going to be looking really good. And also, another thing to talk about is A1 Esports were the one who absolutely stopped VNM Legends in their track. VNM Legends showcased a wonderful start for themselves as far as the rotation was concerned. The rotation did work out in their favor, but A1 Esports were prepared and did not allow VNM Legends to walk away with even a single point. On the other tangent, talking about DoD, now that is a team that walked away with decent amount of points. I mean, 13 points to that based on the placement that they were able to get. Just GG play, and hopefully, if they keep on bringing that sort of a domination in the next games as well, they could find themselves in a top 15 position.
Exactly as you perfectly mentioned, how we're going to get to see VNM Legends getting 0 in a match, and this is certainly that will be daunting VNM Legends players and VNM Legends fans as we talk about and get close to the Oppo F90 Pro moments of this match, and these were early fights. Eventually, these were the early fight in terms of contestation, but was not early in terms of the clock that get ticked. Because in the 15-minute marker, we got to see a real head-on-head 4-3-4 fight that happened between A1 Esports and then it was A1 Esports emerging victorious, and then Boston Pajamas from the same angle they were pulled down before A1 Esports, and finally by IPG. It was Mr. BPC that thrown down and find himself in a different situation where he could have taken down more and more players. He tried really hard and got down some players, but finally he was taken down thanks to IPG's onslaught that came in, and then it was how the players that made a rotation from the southern line through these water bodies. It was a close call. It was a close call for all the teammates, but they survived till all these situations. But this was the 1v1 situation where Rage Kid got the half of the circles, and then it was all down to how you find yourself away from this compounds, because in the last circle, the circle just went away from all these compounds quite in the open. And it was an easy task for Professor to spot down the player for DoD, and Genius just got eliminated from this match. And with this, we head towards the overall ranking where we get to see A1 Esports. They were on the top, they are still on the top. The only difference that they have made is that they have now cemented their position in a better way.
Wow, I mean, 29-point lead. That is what A1 Esports is sitting on right now. Just amazing turn of events. But on the other tangent, TRZ Esports again talk about consistency with just one chicken dinner. But the amount of placement points that they've been able to get find themselves on the second position. So amazing turn of events for TRZ Esports, as we did bring it down to the top 4 teams that were remaining in the lobby. This was one of those teams. So GG play, of course, for the side of TRZ Esports. Indeed, as we move on along, VNM Legends will for now find themselves in a comfortable 5th position with 0 points that they were able to collect for themselves in this game. But Mortem pushing on along and getting into the 16th position. I mean, earlier they were on the 14th or 15th position, but now have been dropped down to the 16th. And after this is where we shall see what sort of a leap have DoD made with the 13 points that they were able to get.
It's TRZ RA that have actually bypassed them with a total of 5 points. Before the start of the match, it was Mortem that was standing, but as you have been talking about, it's team that they actually fight upon, and it was this time that Mortem Esports did fall down. It was easy affair for the rest of the teammates. But talking about this, BhaiBrother still on the third half of the chart, where a lot of team are there. If we talk about that, are coming in from Group A and Group B, but certainly not looking good for teams like Team 4M. DoD Esports, if you talk about this, before this game, they were also not looking good. They just had those 23 total points, and in this match, they got close to 12-13 points. So need to talk about all these teams that are on the third half of the chart. DoD, they know that they don't have those gun power. If they will be finding themselves in the gun power, they eventually will be losing out on the placement points. So why not to get close towards the placement points that teams have been doing so and have successfully made close towards that. But so now it is all down to that how you find yourself away from that 17 to 24, because at the end it will be the top 16 that will be aggressing for the next stage.
Well, indeed, that is the case. With that, we've got still 4 games remaining for day number 4 of the semi-finals right here. So stick around. We're going to be right back with game number 2.
Are you keeping it real? I'm calling shotgun, wanna see my baby run. Oh, what's the word on the sea? Kicking up the dust, if you know what I mean. You got a good thing going. You got a good thing going on.
All right, welcome back. Of course, this is going to be the semi-finals of the PUBG Mobile National Championship Bangladesh region. All thanks to Oppo F19 Pro, day number 4. And it is off to an amazing start for AON Esports and the fans, of course, because that team has jumped into the lobby with some amazing plays. 29-point lead is what they've been able to get. But now, as the game progresses on along, the groups will remain the same. So we shall have to see what VNM Legends has to answer to
Exactly.
that sort of a domination from AON Esports. What do you think, Ankit?
I mean, they really need to react and retaliate in a way that can actually help them because I guess not even in this whole course of tournament we have gotten to see Venom Legends getting nothing away from a match. It was just a 0 point that they got in this match, and still IPG still. I guess certain points below them. I guess maybe once they come into this game, IPG's one objective will be to first trespass Venom Legends, and Venom's will be to trespass and to get over the riddles that they got in the last match of Erangel. But for now, it's the second game that we need to talk about, and that is going to be of Miramar, the flight path already on its way from the area of La Cobrera downtown toward the area of Puerto Parvasio, and the Picardo Power Grids and Martin Graveyard, Los Angeles, Labinetamas, Nas Generalis, Junkyard, El Hazard, Kuzevali will be all glidable except for the extreme areas like Campo Militar on the northeastern side and on the northwestern side. I guess Chumasera is a bit tricky affair to go to.
Well, for now that could be the case. But talking about early movements on the map itself, we are looking at Oxygen Esports. Not Oxygen, my apologies again and again. I keep on going for that OX by being Oxygen, but it is, of course, the BIP bots and pajamas who find themselves going down towards the northern part of the Dora Muda, which is where they do find themselves so many times, but very close to them is this time around going to be T4M. That is not the drop location that we've seen T4M go down towards, but again, today is maybe a different kind of a play style that they bring in, and in that doing so, the circle itself has different gameplay expected off of this first right of the bat circle as well. When it comes to the map of Miramar, it is going to be bringing itself down towards the El Pozo Hacienda del Patron, kind of being the center zones for this circle itself, where so many teams will find comfort. But on the other tangent, when you talk about the southern eastern side of the map, a lot of teams will find themselves into those areas. Of course, we have seen Aeon Esports go down towards that same exact area, which is going to be of Los Leones, where they do go on around. And there is most of the times no other team around them to contest that sort of a drop. But alongside them this time around, it is looking like there will be IPGx very close as well as TRZ. So we shall have to see what those teams are going to be doing when it comes down to the rotation marker itself. And going further south towards the side of Puerto Perecio, we are looking at BFS's players also very close to the players of XBROTHERS. But of course, as they parachuted down, BFS's players have actually noticed that Fatin is the one who's in that vehicle and going to be running away from that application of XBROTHERS players as well, because of course BFS do not want to work towards any fighting chance. They want to be working towards just the placement itself, and that is something that we have seen these team do pretty well for themselves. But well, let's see if today will be allowed to do so. Another team that did really well for the placement point conversation is going to be DoD, who find themselves
Exactly.
smack in the center of the zone for now.
Exactly, as you perfectly mentioned, in the Red Smack Center onto the northern side of Power Grid, and a sort of dip is what we can expect that they are in position for now, but not in a dip in the total performance that we have seen in the past and in the early stage of the game. DoD again joining this game of Miramar with just a three-man roster. I guess it's one-man army that has been the standout performer for DoD in the past. Is still missing for the first two games. I hope the rest three games he connects and he gets to play for now. But for now, it seems that IPG, the team that really had a very good game in the last game of Erangel, so now they have shown their gun power in the game of Erangel. I really want to see them decimating the complete lobby once they have stepped in the game of Miramar. For now, it's Mehfooz Whitey, the team that has been, and I would rather say the player that has been on the standard performer for them, because we have seen a lot of players that have stepped out, be it Dictator, be it Sensei, and be it Mehfooz Whitey. Every player has that top-notch game that really brings to the game. But how can we forget the performance that A1 Esports have been constantly deliberating, and they are on our TV screens right now. They are with a total average damage of 1214. So, I mean, this is something that separates a good team and a team that is really struggling to get their mark into the game. And that's why even esports really just bloom away from all these fights. On the other hand, it is also going to be a team of RudeDude. So, RudeDude onto the eighth position. The total points is completely not justified with the way RudeDude has been playing in the past. I would really want to see them making a close in towards the top 7 or top 8 with at least a cementing position at the end of today's gameplay.
Well, right here, DoD's AJ, another player from the side of DoD who has been performing well pretty neatly for the side. Of course, has now spotted out Sparrow from the side of Silent Cloud and is going to try and take on a fight all by himself. His teammate, I do not see anywhere around him, so DoD's player AJ is all by himself. But Sparrow, of course, as he made that rotation, has also seen the placement of DoD's player, and of course now will try and either take a fight all by himself. From the looks of it, I'm not entirely sure if Sparrow has a decent amount of loot or not. AJ, of course, did. He had a perfect well turn of events. Now it is going to be DoD's AJ going on to the flank angle, and maybe it is Silent Cloud that will have a better half of this fight because we can see
Yeah.
that Sparrow's teammates have also chimed in along.
Exactly as you just mentioned, some players are holding the ridge on are on the cliff. Where if AG just try to expose himself up on a pretty much right angle, he can be taken down. On the other hand, it is Fobiraz that is now coordinating with Sparrow and taking this head-on-head one fight. This is going to be a tricky affair because we have already seen DoD again and again joining the fray, joining the match with just 3-man roster. If AG gets eliminated in the early stage of the game, it can be really a denting situation. And he has received a lot of shots. Eventually, shot that he will be taken down. And the early stage of the game, he are not looking pretty strong. Now it comes down to how Genius reacts to the situation. I guess fall back from the situation will be the safest option because he doesn't even have the last man from his side of his cover, and sooner or later if he gets knocked down, it will be really tough for the last one player for DoD to survive till the last, and eventually we might see DoD falter them. But till now, he seems that he is giving a tough fight. Kobilash will be getting the kill confirmed for the team, and DoD Genius, he really needs to fall back from the situation.
Well, he most certainly should, and of course, he should also keep in mind that it is the later half of the game that he's working towards, and not these initial fights, where of course he's not even in the position to take on a fight. With that, we do see Silent Cloud Sparrow going on to the flank, and that is something that could very well be the demise of Genius for the moment. But yep, finally, Genius is going to be taken a back step from this fight. From the looks of it, he will try and hopefully try and survive for a bit more longer. But on the other tangent, talking about Silent Cloud's players are going to be moving on to create a completely different rotation for themselves. And of course, DoD's final player, Secret, was at a flank angle, kind of far away from the position itself, but eventually, of course, was able to at least give the cover fire to Genius to help him move away from the position. So again, they have the opportunity to be able to work towards those final few circles and moments of the game to get those placement points working in their favor. Because last time also it was just two players who were able to get that moving on along, and this time around they have the same opportunity. But will the lobby allow them to do so? Is what the conversation is. For now, 8 minutes into the game, we are looking at of course 15 teams, all teams that jumped in, all still remaining alive.
A slow start, right, brought on a very safe note because in the game of Erangel, the team really showed their intention that they will be first dropping onto the favorite drop location, then shooting, and then try to go for the rotation. No early clash, thankfully, for the rest of the team because now they have played a lot of games together. But DOD and SLX and Venom Legends, do they have any idea that Venom Legends are quite in a close proximity? Where now I guess SLX would have heard those sound cues of those. Who are we and those vehicles that with which Venom Legends are trying to aggressively get to see if early knock or early fights get into the players or those brawls are happening or not. For now, it seems that Venom Legends players have spotted on the players of SLX, but now Venom Legends all they can do is to yes go for that. Approach that they have been famous for. Frypan just trying to print out a grenade. He is deploying a grenade, but is not realizing the situation that the players are onto the other side. On the other hand, it's Venom Legend just trying to engulf the player because the compound in which SLX are holding themselves into it is in a dip situation, and around that. I guess it's 270 degree with which there is a complete ridge, and at that point VNM Legends can actually pin down with the height advantage going into their favor. But Frypan is the one who is leading the charge for now, and he is trying to use the utilities to his perfection and giving more and more sound cues and info to the players. On the other hand, it's Void that is completely setting up on his crosshair just to pepper out the lids. But Frypan, realizing the fact, he has smoked down to its area and on a safer approach, on a safer side, just not to get knocked down. Because had that been a case, it would have been really, really, really tough for VNM Legends to find themselves into. But on the other hand, it's about SLX that really didn't give any sort of a fight that could have gone onto their side. So it was still a stalemate situation because we didn't get to see a team a player at least getting knocked down.
Well, for the moment, that has certainly been the case, working in favor of SLX. Eventually, same can be said for VNM Legends, kind of as well. Of course, the VNM Legends are supposed to be able to get kill points confirmed for themselves, but sadly was not given the opportunity to do so. But as we move on along into the zone, or rather outside the zone, rather, is where we find PRZ Esports on the move right here, moving on along with his teammates to get into the zone. 600 meters away is where they find themselves. Right here, of course, as we go on back to the fight that was showcased, the first blood sort of situation that was showcased from the side of Silent Clouds. Koblash is the man who is right now just, of course, moving on to get a lot more loot segregated for himself, of course, as the teammates are very close to him. But another team is also making a rotation, and this is where things can go a little tricky if A1 Esports decides to stop and retaliate.
I guess for now it will be even esports that will be finding themselves in a comfortable position, as we can get to see, because none of the teammates or from other, as a moment ago we just got to say VNM Legends had that opportunity that they could have taken. They could have eventually gone a step ahead, but what we got to see from the looks of it, each and every player just not trying to retaliate. But at this place only, it was VNM Legends a minute ago, but now it is TRZ. The players are trying to make a rotation. I guess they were trying to make a flank or maybe a charge in onto the player of SLX, and both the sides have gotten those early knocks from each side and a collateral damage. That means that player needs to get the revival. On the other hand, it's SLX. The players are just three. The team is just three-man roster. Fury, on the other hand, has been knocked down. That means he needs the revival. So time and again, we are getting to see a lot of teams that are not able to get to play with all the four-man roster. And in these sort of situation, even if you are trying to or willing to take the fight, you just cannot do so in the early stage of the game. But because just imagine a player or two getting eliminated, that just leaves a single player down to the for the complete rest match, and that can be a demise for the whole team.
That very well could be the case, but for now, of course, TRZRA are still not ready to let go of this compound next to the water treatment area that we do find the SLX in. But as you so perfectly mentioned, it is going to be a three-man squad from the side of SLX, so a difficult affair from their side. But on the other tangent, talk about fights. We do see BhaiBrother's taking on a fight against the players of, maybe it was VNM Legends right next to them. But again, the fight was being showcased, and it is going to be Void who has been knocked for the moment. BhaiBrothers are looking pretty much in control, but will that be enough? On the other tangent, as you move on down towards the water treatment area itself, we are looking at SLX and TRZRA still being part of that fight. And when it comes down to the players of course, SLX, they are looking pretty much in control of that area because they're still a three-man squad. Moving on to the zone itself, we are having once again A1 Esports in a very comfortable position in the zone, but as the other teams will be pushing on along to get into the comfort of the zone itself, this is going to get tricky very, very quickly.
Indeed, it will be. But for now, it's the second job that is already on its way, and that offers that Groza that can really come into handy. But talking about Groza, let's talk about the DMR action that is happening in this game of Miramar, where we're getting to see PRZRA getting one player eliminated by SLX. Now they are still posting up a big challenge onto the players of SLX. On the run, it's SLX that's still holding those compounds and those circles for now. But for how long, that will be the question. On the other hand, it is going to be TRZ Esports that is looking pretty strong at the moment, as they have pinned down the players of XBROTHERS. They have put Faisal down, and it is all down to how Venom reacts to this situation. He eventually is surviving, but he realizes the fact that the players from the sides of TRZ are falling down slowly and steadily. And in this situation, he will be abandoning the player because revival was certainly not the case, was certainly not possible. But on the other hand, it was not that from the Western side, they were trying to make a rotation, but Jack's grenade connects perfectly well onto the face of Classy, and he has been taken down. Now, Jax is the one that really made a detrimental damage of Erangel. Will he be able to do so? For now, it seems that it was 6-9 Boy also with the help of Jack that will be eliminating the case. But sadly, Sinister has been eliminated, daughter.
Well, again, I mean, a swift SWAT action is what we are showcased from the side of A1 Esports as they took that compound from the side of Mortem. And again, just sinister play being brought on along. The synergy was so on point from the lads of A1 Esports. That is the reason why this team is known to be so good. But on the other tangent, on the other side of the map itself, we are looking at another fight from the side of IPGx, and it is Sincere who took on a fight. But as soon as he did so, gave the information away to the players of A1 Esports, and now A1 has retaliated. So, I mean, what we're looking at from A1 Esports is they are not wanting to stop the aggressive stance. They are going to take on the fights no matter if they are in a better situation or better control of the area. Because right now, of course, when you talk about IPGx, they have the King of the Hill situation certainly working in their favor, but the information has certainly not retaliated in that same progression, because after all, it was Silent Cloud that was looking at a bad angle, but now it is IPGx who find themselves in a bad angle thanks to A1 Esports' very swift spotting.
Just a big rock separating between two teams. The game has come down to this close. We are heading towards the fourth circle, and sooner or later, in 15 to 20 seconds, we can get to see the fourth circle making a shift. And just because of that, we can get to see Sensor just trying to create the flank angle. That in if that situation, at least one player will be in a moment, will be in a position to make a swift rotation into the zone. And here we go. The circle has tilted away from them. Sadly, that means they now need to make an entry. But how will they do so? Because if they try to go from the complete southern west eastern side, it will be TRZ, the team that will be pinning them down. If they try to go on head to head, it will be A1 Esports that will be making a really tough situation from them, and that will be a really tough roadblock. On the other hand, it is VNM Legends that is really trying to bring all the four players, and they are perfectly looking very strong at the moment. If you can get to see the Husk Yanda Ridge on the central lines, if VNM Legends get even close towards those ridge, that would be really a good thing for now. But on the other side, we can get to see VNM Legends just enjoying the compound just on the edge of the city corner. That means that VNM Legends for this game, they are playing the edge of the city.
They most certainly are, but on the extreme edge, we do see BFS was making that northern rotation. I mean, they came all the way from south on towards the northern side for now, and will find themselves behind the positioning of BIP. But we shall have to see if BFS will want to retaliate as they push on in towards the zone itself. Talking about IPGx, they are certainly in control of this compound, and most certainly not in control of the circle, as the circle is 330 meters away from the players. They are going to have to push, and they are going to have to get out in the open. But as they do so, there are two teams waiting for them. Of course, we have TRZ Esports as well as Silent Cloud. So this is where Silent Cloud. No. This has turned into a bit of a interesting situation for the side of IPG, because after all, TRZ Esports have now pushed on to try and take a fight against the players of Silent Cloud. And as they do so, IPG will most certainly be able to make that rotation and get themselves into the zone.
Exactly, IPG, it was really good rotation. It was a trickier one until and unless it was TRZ that just got their attention, just not concentrated onto the play, I would say. But on the other hand, it's even Esports Jack that has been taken down, and it is RudeDude that is punishing. So again, an affair between RudeDude and even Esports that has been carried from the game of Erangel that is still happening in the game of Miramar. We can get to see Sinister has been already taken down in the recent game. Jack has been taken down. 6-9 Boy eventually goes down, and Jax is anyhow surviving on the center of an HP, and it all comes down to how Dante react to this situation, because 6-9 Boy has gone down. On the other hand, it's VNM Legends, so big names already going down in this game of Miramar. Certainly for all these teams.
Well, look at the control that, of course, Jax is showcasing in this fight. Just brilliant movement being showcased in this compound. Moving in from, of course, the center door down towards the flank door. Just perfect annihilating thing that he was expecting from RudeDude to make that sort of a rotation based on the player's placement. And that is exactly what has happened. I mean, Jax, again, very much in control of this fight. But now it has turned into a 1v1 where, of course, the health is not favoring Jax. And it is RudeDude from the side of course, RudeDude, who has a perfect health situation working in his favor. And that, of course, will be something that Jax will also try and take on for himself as he pushes on along. Of course, he's got a little bit of spotting over there as there was revival being showcased on the side of Flex, but no will be the answer on the side of Jax. And of course, Jax has so much of information right now in this fight. This is not looking easy for either side actually, because again, Jax is prepared to take this onslaught to the face, but he is out in the open. And again, this is a position where he could very well get third partied as well.
Exactly, it's Silent Cloud on the backhand side, and now they need to fight with two different sort of thing. It is going to be the blue zone, the blues that really affect. And in this situation, Jack has successfully made an entry, not in the safe circle, but he's away from all these dudes. That means RudeDude has no other option than to go for those heal battles for now. But wait to see how he takes the fight. On the other hand, it's 3RZ that has been completely decimated, and thanks to the onslaught that it has come in from the sides of Bots in Pajama, it's Wipeout that really made it possible. He doesn't even have a kill for now, but as the game progresses, I'm sure that he will be taking the fight in its own hand. But for now, it's Venom Legends that is really possessing a challenge, because the moment they go, we just saw Venom Legends one player being taken down, and now Firebrand is now reacting to the situation. But Void, he has also faltered down. That means Venom Legends really need to find themselves out, because it's just the fry pan that is still surviving, because Void needs the revival. On the other hand, BhaiBrother's all three players are surviving, and even if two grenades gets connected in a synchronized way, in a synchronized position, it can be a game in for Venom Legends, because they are just too much strong. You can get to see a grenade, but no, he's still safe.
Well, for now, they certainly are safe. Of course, it is going to be Yamin Bhai who has been knocked, but along with that, Void once again going down, and it has, of course, turned into a 1v1 affair where it is going to be Tamim as well as Faipan. Of course, now the conversation is going to be who will be the one who shall have to get into the heal battle sort of a situation. Faipan trying to not take that fight, but eventually Tamim also will go down, will not be able to get that kill. But boy, oh boy, Venom Legends once again not walking away with decent points for themselves. So sad state of affair for the side of Venom Legends, of course, as they were not even able to confirm those kills from the side of BhaiBrother's. They were able to confirm the knocks, but sadly, not the kills.
When just count on the number, it was RudeDude that has gone down by play zone. It was a Venom Legend that was certainly, primarily, there was certain percentage with which a play zone played its part, and then it was BhaiBrother that went down into the zone. And we have talked about this sort of thing that happens in the game of Miramar. If you don't pay respect to the zone will be putting a detrimental damage. But some teams have certainly made a successful rotation, and we can already get to see that SLX have now started retaliating, because they are in a safe haven. They are on the edge of the circle, and they have the cliff, the advantage of elevation that they can play upon. And all these, it really reminds me of a game in the quarterfinals where BFS brought 3 players down to the last circle and they secured the chicken.
Exactly, and that is something that BFS have done this time around perfectly. I mean, I was keeping an eye on their rotation, and the rotation was one of such to keep themselves at the most edge of the circle as possible as they moved on from the southern side towards the northern side as well. I mean, just perfect plays coming in from this team. But in all of this, P4M have been very much in the center of the zone for a really long time, and this team as of now have all 4 players alive with 5 kills confirmed for themselves as well. So when it comes down to the way the zone is creating, it is turning into quite an aggressive stance that will need to be showcased if this team of T4M needs to get this fight working in their favor, because the circle is next to them but in the open, and that is something that, of course, no team wants to be a part of. On the other tangent, SLX are going to have to run into the open as well, right next to the placement of BFS's compound, and that is something that, of course, SLX will find very hard to do so, because out in the open, they will be in the process, of course, of T4M as well as BFS.
They will be peppered on with all the ledge that is just waiting for them. That is for sure, because the way the terrain is actually not favoring them. Once they try to go away from all this situation, there is a dip. And even if that situation, even if they try to go away from this, I don't get to see any other option than to just go for a blind slam. And on the other hand, it is Team 4M that is looking too strong. And the way players are checking on the backhand side, it seems that they have the slightest of an idea that some of the players from other teammates are hiding in that small compound, and that is going to be one player from the sides of Silent Cloud. And this is something that we were talking about. SLX don't have any other option for the slam blind push, and this is something that SLX can help with themselves. But because they have the zone for now, they have the big rocks that they can play up to at the last circle, but that was not the case for BFS. They already had those certain sort of radio, those rocks that is having in the front of them. But for now, it's Team 4M that is really pinning down the players of SLX and also on the players of BFS. On the other hand, Bamboo that is now retaliating on the players of BFS. That means Team 4M is strictly having their eyes set upon 2 teams. On the left hand side, it is gonna be of BFS, and on the right hand side, it is gonna be of SLX. On the other hand, it is one player that is still surviving, the solo player from the sides of one team that is on the southern side of the circle.
Absolutely, and I believe that is the atomic right there from TRZ itself. And again, amazing turnover wins indeed for the lad, because after all, when it comes down to these 3 teams that we're looking at in this triangle order, death triangle sort of situation that they find themselves in, well, they are going to be bringing down each other. And of course, in that conversation, TRZ's Atomic could very well get himself into the better half of the position as we do see him at the edge of that zone. It is going to be tough, tough luck. But again, talking about SLX, I mean, they do not have a single kill. They've been part of a lot of fights, but for now, they are surviving and they are pushing on along with a very interesting strategy, which is, of course, to try and stay alive and get as much placement points as possible. With that, BFS's final player, Turgut, still remaining alive, but not for long. As he will make that rotation, it is going to be, of course, out in the open. And as it does so, it might just be a small little yep from T4M, and it might be the end for that lad. So, of course, BFS trying to take on a fight right here. We do see Fardeen and Mess, the only two players who are alive, but still find themselves very much in the crosshairs of T4M's nades parade as well as Molotovs. Alongside that, if SLX pushes on along in this position, it could be a case where BFS might just be sandwiched in both of these situations. And again, in all of this, TRZ's final player Atomic still surviving, still pushing on to get that placement point working in this team's favor. And GG play, of course, being showcased from the lad.
Definitely, Mess and Fardeen on the sides of
Ouch.
BFS have done a commendable job until and unless it's TRZ Esports that has already been taken down. And the moment we start just commending the players, it's the time that they start faltering down. Eventually, it was TRZ's Atomic that went down, and finally, it is all down to how BFS survives the rat that is coming in, and he eventually won't be able to do so as Rescue have now gotten 2 kills onto his whole team name. He has the 1 kill, but finally it's all down to how he survives the rat that will be coming in from the sides of Team 4M, because it's Team 4M that is getting the advantage, a sort of advantage for the last circle, because that has gone into their favor, but certainly not in the favor of SLX. Also, they are down on the numbers advantage. On the other hand, it's Fury that is being on the knock. He has taken down XLR8. That means now this is a fight that has come down on an even affair, but Rescue, realizing the situation, has gone for the flank angle. He is going for the push, but here we go. That 6 has been pulled down, and now it comes down to how quickly Fury gives the revival and comes into the zone. But the way Marcos and Bamboo has hidden themselves into all these smokes, this is just meticulous gameplay coming in.
Well, most certainly is. And with that Rescue pushing on to create that flank, of course, working in his favor, the aggressive stance that he was able to push on along with the help of the vehicle being his defense has worked in his favor. Marcos has already been naded down along with that. As Rescue pushes on, it is going to be Bamboo who will find himself in a bit of an awkward situation because he's going to be out in the open. And in that doing so, SLX have jumped to get themselves a chicken dinner. I mean, should have been a case for T4M, but again, amazing play coming in from SLX.
Win one of those games that we have seen in the whole semi-final where we couldn't have predicted and preempted a team that could even get close to the chicken dinner. If we would have, it would have been certainly not, because it was SLX just with roster surviving all the onslaught. Everything was against them, but the way they just tried to compose themselves, they just kept calm, and the moment they started retaliating, it was Team 4M that didn't have any other reply for that, and they fell down. And with this, not a big game for themselves, but certainly in terms of point that will be helping them, because straight away they have made a jump on that 19th position, and slowly and steadily they will be trying to get close to the 16 total placement points. Talking about the most valuable player, we have gotten Spidey in the past too, and this game also he has been the MVP for them as he secures 6 kills, 764 damage, 0 assists, but just the 86 heal done. And just because of that, they had that elevated advantage until and unless they were forced to come down.
Well, that, of course, being the demise of the team. Again, I mean, the flank kind of was working in T4M's favor, but the way SLX just had that synergy working, it was so very meticulous play that was being showcased on the side of Rescue and the others, that VAT69, and of course that resulted in them getting that chicken in the better half of the fight, even though the stats would have favored T4M. It is SLX getting the better half of the fight, but eventually both the teams needed these points. I mean, even though T4M have not gotten a chicken dinner, they were second, and that of course will give them those placement points along with the kills. So it is really required for both these teams, SLX as well as T4M. They both find themselves in the latter half of the leaderboard, and you have to be in the top 16.
Eventually, it was Fury that did give a proper amount of cover fire for Rescue, and he was the one that made the close in towards the player of Team 4M, and he collected all the infos, and then it was all easy for them, because we have seen in the past that SLX, they have that real gun power that we talked about, the strength in the gun power. They have those precision, and if they are allotted with those, they will certainly be taking away the match with the chicken, and they clinched it in a style. But for now, the match summary where we get to see a lot of Team 4M players, Spidey in that longest distance skill, and that is of 300 meter. And I certainly guess that that hill would have helped them get close to that longest skill distance. And we got to see Dante, that maximum assist. So A1 Esports, they got the 7 kills, eliminated in the early stage of the game, but still securing at least 8 points for this match. And this is something that A1 Esports have been working consistently upon, because they have two type of gameplay. Once they try to play passively and try to go towards the 6th or 7th circle, then they go all crazy. Else, eventually in the early stage of the game, they try to engage in a lot of fight and get away from these fights and get completely decimated, but still securing 8 to total 9 points.
Absolutely, but again, I mean, when it comes down to this game, there's a lot of difference between the points that have been distributed amongst the lobby itself. In the first 8 teams itself, they have the most amount of kills, and as we move on to the second page, this is where not a lot of kills were of course left out for the others that were part of the lobby itself, where we do see IPGx in the 9th spot with 3 kills that they were able to sustain, and as we move on along, it was BhaiBrother's who were of course in a fight against the side of VNM Legends and were was able to retaliate and push them along to send them back into the lobby indeed. But in all of this, another thing to talk about is going to be Atomic TRZ Esports. Just amazing play that resulted once again in the consistent match points that this team walks away with every single time. And of course, that is worked in the team's favor eventually. Same can be said, of course, for BFS and SLX and T4M. So, decent play for this game.
Indeed, it is. It was a lot of good gameplay coming in, because in the last circle, we just got to see 4 different players. It was SLX, it was Team 4M, it was some other team that really started charming in. And this is something that really offers this sort of competition, because you get to have a lot of matches, pretty matches, and if one team like A1 Esports, VNM Legends, or 7 or IPG start dictating, it's really tough for the rest of the team. It was not the case, as A1 Esports just got eliminated, was trying to take the fight. It was not this team, RudeDude, that took them down, but once they were trying to make an entry, it was certainly the other team. And then it was VNM Legends Tripan that really held his nerve, and finally he was taken down by Tamim. But Tamim, really, he didn't have a lot of time to get those medics on, and he was taken down. On the other hand, it was BFS that really were looking promising, but once they were trying to make an entry on the side, it was bots, Pitamas, and SLX that really find themselves in the trap from both these teams.
Well, GC indeed. As we move on to the final 2 teams that were alive at this moment, also, it was looking like T4M should have been able to get the better half. But again, I mean, look at that. Spidey sense is completely not tingling. XLR moving out in the open, Spidey moving out in the open. Smoke is there, but they're not using the smoke. And that, of course, is not the playstyle that you want to be bringing into those final fights. But eventually, again, when you talk about the overall ranking, it is A1 Esports that have reigned supreme once again with the 8 points they were able to get, making a big leap in terms of their overall 177 points in total. TRZ Esports finding themselves on the second with 151, but trying to maintain a decent amount of point distribution for every single game. That is what TRZ Esports is doing, and trying to sustain that, of course, is going to be a challenge, but we shall see how long will TRZ be able to keep this up. Along with that, VNM Legends still finding themselves on the 5th spot with 111 points, and right next to them is going to be IPGx on the 6th with 110. So there's a lot to be expected from VNM Legends, but for now, that is certainly not the case.
The Nelson is fought with which VNM Legends are standing is 1-1-1, just 1 point above IPG. In the next game, I guess both of the team, if IPG gets close to that a good total placement or kill points, they will be taken down. But I'm sure that in the next game, we will get to see a lot of changes in the first half of the chart. But moving on to the second half, it's TRZRA that is had a very good, not a good game, but still a decent one to be finding themselves in the top 15 and top 16. But XBROTHERS, they are really not looking good for the moment, because I guess they are still on the same position where they started the game off. But teams like BFS, they are now slowly and steadily making a close in towards the top points, the top 20 placement points that they need to. There's a lead between them and the team that is still standing and on the 16 and 15 position is not so much. So it's pretty much in the game, a ball game that can eventually help them to get close toward the second half of the chart, because none of the team, time and time again, we have been repeating in the past, because 17 to 24, that's the dead end where none of the player would love to be in. Also, DoD Esports, one game that helped them shoot their numbers to 3 to 4 total points, but again, a game that really didn't went in their favor. And also one more
True.
thing into the factor that DoD time and again they have been playing the three-man roster. So we need to talk about this. A team that played a three-man roster in the first game, they got towards the total 12 placement points. In this game, they were completely annihilated. It was SLX again a three-man roster. So maybe today is a game where we need to keep an eye where the three-man roster is completely working in their favor.
Well, again, that certainly is very evident, again, based on the gameplay that is being showcased by these teams. Again, with that, we've got three more games remaining for the day. And that is, of course, going to bring the total to 15 games that these teams would have played. And of course, that is going to be that much more closer to the end of the competition. For now, it is very, very serious, as we just saw. I mean, T4M walking away with that many kills and points, have moved on along into the top 16. But will they be able to sustain that? We shall see. But for now, we're going to go on a very, very short little break. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Are you keeping it real? I'm calling shotgun, wanna see my baby run. Oh, what's the word on the street? Kicking up the dust, if you know what I mean. We got a good thing going. We got a good thing going on.
Hello and welcome to PUBG Mobile National Championship Bangladesh region. All thanks to Oppo F90 Pro. Two games are done. We're going to be jumping into the third game for today. A1 Esports is certainly on a complete different role and shift. But along with that, in the second game, Ankit, we finally saw teams from that final page of the leaderboard chiming in with some awesome results for themselves. So hopefully, as we jump into the third game, maybe that sort of result is to be expected. What do you think?
I mean, I'm not surprised with A1 Esports starting the day off with chicken because this has been the monotonicity with which A1 Esports have been jumping off. But the way teams like Team 4M SLX have started retaliating, this is something where things can get trickier with all the teams that are standing from 12 to 15 to 16 maybe. Because if the teams from the third of the chart, if they start featuring in the second half of the chart, that means certain team needs to find themselves away from the second half of the chart, and that is certainly the thing that none of the teams standing in those pole positions will be wanting to themselves get into. But for now, it seems that we are heading towards the third game of the day, and that is going to be of Erangel again and again. We have seen this sort of flight path that tends to maybe the circle goes away from them, and I'll love to see if the circle goes on to the military base. What about you?
Well, that would be an interesting turn of events indeed when it comes to the map. But we shall see there exactly will the shift be thrown from the side of, or rather the curveball, so to say, be thrown from the side of course, the circle itself. When it comes to the game, the circle is the king that will, of course, dominate the entirety of the game and the team's gameplay as well. But talking about teams themselves, as of now, we do once again do see TRZ's players, of course, finding themselves towards the area out towards Primos, another perfect turn of events for them because that is they love to actually go down to that drop location and then wait till the final moments and then make that rotation into the zone itself. So we'll see probably the same sort of an effect coming in from the side of TRZRA. As we move on along, we do have A1 Esports also getting themselves in the acclimated area that we see them, but this time around in a really panned out approach where Dante and Jax are miles apart. Between them is the entire team of course, XBROTHERS as well as Venom Legends on the other tangent. When it comes down to 6 9 Boy and Sinister, they are in a complete different turn of events itself. So, an
Fearless.
interesting start from A1 Esports.
Fearless, completely fearless with the way they just perfectly mentioned they are miles apart. They are eventually miles apart because the way they have positioned themselves till now, for the moment, it seems that they eventually won't be able to provide the ample amount of cover fire if the player gets stuck. But the way the players rely heavily upon their skill set, that's something that even esports that need to take care of because at the end of the day, it's also teams like RudeDude that eventually drops very close towards you. And just imagine on a certain day, on a very fine day, if they try and have read your script and your strategies well, they might go on for the same approach. But on the other hand, it's their FPS that is also miles apart for the rest of the pack, and that is going to be on the area of Primors. But apart from that, it's Team 4M. So Team 4M really pretty good, looking good for the moment. Gatka is where they have dropped down for now because they have been changing their drop location as you have mentioned in the game of Miramar. But for now, I guess this has been their safe side where they love to drop down towards the same area. I'm really not sure about the Team 4M drop locations. If you so, please throw some light onto it.
Well, again, when it comes down to T4M itself, this team are very, very dynamic. I mean, last time also when it came down to the Erangel, they moved on along in a completely different sort of an event, and that is something that, of course, the team is still trying to find themselves in a bit of what should I say, a decent positioning. But every single time when it comes down to the drop on Erangel, I've noticed them be a different sort of a play style. And with that, as we move on towards DoD is again going to be coming in. So it seems like this is confirmed for them that they are going to be playing with just a three-man roster indeed when it comes down to these games. And it perhaps is not the best approach, but that is what the storyline is for the time and for the side of DoD Esports, sadly enough. But as we move on, it is going to be interesting to see as to how they play these 7 games that are left to them. Mortem also is trying their level best, going to retaliate in those fights and try and take on fights. We did see them being hunkered down thanks to A1 Esports in the previous one. But as they move on along, again, they are trying. They are not looking too comfortable because the last game for T4M, it was Mortem's demise. Mortem was in the top 16, but T4M moved on along and took some amazing kills and points for themselves, thus pushing Mortem down towards the final page of the leaderboard. So not a good start for the team. And talking about bad starts, this is BFS right here, and Fardeen has not had a decent start to the game as of now because based on results, it seems like he was either part of a fight or perhaps a knock drop. That did not favor him, but we shall see what sort of gameplay will BFS be bringing this time around to the game itself. Their rotations have certainly been working in their favor, and they are trying to stay as far out from the entirety of the fights as possible. But will that be enough for them to get themselves moving on into the top 16? We shall have to see. Of course, we've been talking about it. They have 3 games counting this one, so 3 games still remaining for BFS for the day, and well, they should be able to bring those points up in terms of their favor and make it to the top 16. But same can it be said for XBROTHERS? Tough luck for this team because when they started off in the quarterfinals, were looking pretty dominating, not necessarily, but in control of the fights. But as
Exactly.
the journey has progressed on, things have just not favored them based on their rotation, based on their fights. They just keep getting caught off guard, and that results in them getting annihilated.
Exactly as you perfectly mentioned, there are a lot of teams that are looking to find themselves in a good spot for now. You mentioned about PFS. I would also like to talk about it because it's the rest of the 3 games for today, including this one. That is what they will be playing on a trot, and the lobby in which they are playing for now. Whenever they chime in, it is going to be A1 Esports and teams like RudeDude or TRC because both of because all the 3-4 players teams come in from the sides of Group A. So one thing is for sure, all they can hope is just to face not the brunt of VNM Legends or 7Cs on a very fine day. But on the other hand, it is going to be A1 Esports that is still topping the leaderboard, and IPG really now looking pretty good for the moment. They don't have the zone as for now because 860 meters is what they have to travel for now. But I'm sure that they have found out a way because time and again we have seen them making a successful rotation. Until now, they haven't been offered any roadblock on that Novo Bridge. I would love to see if the players would want to, but I just don't understand why Root Dude don't go for the approach. Maybe Root Dude does have some different sort of strategies, but just for once, maybe just for a change, I would love to see if they just get caught down. And talk about Root Dude, we have been seeing this again and again. They drop down to the area of where farm on the area of farm split, or maybe the compounds on the in the vicinity of Milta on the left hand side of those bridge. And once they loot all these areas, then they go for all those vehicles that are spawned down on the same area and in the same proximity. And this is what something Root Dude has been constantly pressing upon. And because of that, we can get to see none of the time they have gone for the bridge camp situation. On the other hand, it is on the A1 Esports that all of us have the eye set upon because it was the team that started off the day with boom, getting the chicken in the first game with eventually a lot of kills also on their hand. But then they faltered down in the game of Miramar, and we just saw certain teams bouncing back. It was teams like Team 4M, it was teams like BFS, it was SLX. So big names were not in the game of Miramar. It was earlier in the game of Erangel. Will the same history be repeated? We have to wait for now as BhaiBrother's just features on our screen. They are not in a good position on 21st position, and also they have their friends in the same vicinity, and that is going to be of Mortem. So Mortem looting out on the area of Bilta and then going for those early rotation. I guess this is something that can really pay them off well.
Absolutely, and that is something that can be expected from the side of Mortem, of course. But as the conversation pushes on, we have Silent Cloud onto our screens, and Silent Cloud, of course, are in the open for the moment right now, and are going to be trying to get themselves into a decent compound for now. Of course, we do see uh, one teammate, of course, that is going to be Kobayashi, who is going to be finding himself into the compound itself. And that is where, of course, the entirety of Silent Cloud team members will try and push on and maybe just hold the ground for now. Of course, it is just the first circle, so it is anybody's game for now. And as the game progresses on, based on the rotation and based on the map, and what sort of circle shift is being dropped on, is when we can actually start expecting some fights. For now, of course, all the teams have found themselves in decent areas and they don't have a lot of teams in their vicinity. Thus, it is going to be turning into a quite start for the game. But 8.5 minutes in is the moment when things start to take a bit of a turn. Maybe for the best, maybe for the worst, but that is something that only time can answer. For now, of course, talking about the zone itself, it is certainly going to be favoring pretty much all the teams because every team finds themselves in the center, or not in the center, but in the comfort of the zone. And as I speak that, the circle has moved on away from them. Still going to be favoring the side of A1 Esports, VNM Legends, Silent Cloud, BFS, and the likes. But T4M have now been pushed outside the zone. Same, of course, is the case for IPG as they make that rotation in towards the zone through the Novorupnoy bridge. But eventually, as they do so, they can maybe find themselves in a bit of a tricky affair because after all, there might just be teams like RudeDude who we do see on our screen very, very close to that India who might just bring IPG's rotation down. But as we talk about rotation itself, it is Venom Legends up this time around with a start taking a shot against the players of course, DoD Esports' rotation, and that sadly did not result in favoring him. But again, the information has been conveyed, and now that conveyed information will result in the fight that we were just expecting a few minutes ago.
We need to duly note this point that A1 Esports have fallen back, but still not fallen back to an extent where they can completely disengage from this fight because they are waiting. Might be they're just waiting to take down the players of Venom Legends, just realizing the fact, but maybe giving that momentum that they can do so. On the other hand, it is going to be BhaiBrother that is really pulling down the players of BFS, and on the other hand side, it is going to be a one more team, but they really need to take care of as they are in an open situation where if a team on a certain fine day, if they try to and decides finally that yes, we are gonna be making a complete push and a flush, they can be in a tricky situation as we can already see. One knock and BFS completely trying to go for the push, and Tamim has duty noted all these points, and this is certainly not looking good for the sides of BhaiBrother as finisher also goes down. Abid has been eliminated, and it seems that it all comes down to Tamim. So BFS, I am completely surprised with the gameplay that they are showcasing upon because this is not the BFS that we have seen in the past. This is the new, revamped, updated BFS, and they are certainly looking up for the top spot in this match.
Well, they most certainly are. And with that, the meme being brought down almost to a server of an HP and is most certainly not going to be able to retaliate for now before he gets the first aid popped. And first aid has been popped across the information, has been laid. And Mess, not looking too good. Mess will be knocked. No, he will not. He will go down before he's given that final bullet to the head. But of course, in that doing so, the meme now has given away his information. And now BFS will know exactly where that final player is. We do see Fardeen in the back corner trying to give that flank angle to the players with the DP in his hand. But eventually, again, it is all on to Mess, Turgut, and Bittu to bring this fight in their favor. They have already confirmed those two kills. One was knocked from the side of course, BhaiBrothers, but that kill was not yet confirmed. So now it has turned into a 3v2 affair, which again could go in either side's favor.
Exactly, and on the backhand side, we need to realize that it is also XBROTHERS that can at any moment point and pounce on the situation. But the way BFS are actually taking the fight, I'm completely surprised and happy to say so because now BFS is looking a mature team because they made also BhaiBrother's go down on its knee. They eliminated two players, and the moment they realized that it's the time that no more we are getting to see any players spotted down in the open, they just successfully uh, retreated back from the same stance, and this is something that the team needs to find themselves in. It's okay to be on an aggressive stance, but at the same point, you need to balance out those aggressions with those important callouts in this match, and this is something that BFS are now pretty much looking strong. And I guess at the end of the day, I might be finding themselves in the top 16 or maybe top 15 or top 50, 14. We have to still wait for that because they are also making those successful rotations. They are coming in from the western side and they are holding those important compounds, those important bridges, taking the fights and realizing the thing that can go into the favor or not. It is certainly looking good for them because they are making it pay. On the other hand, it seems that Team 4M are certainly facing the brunt of the blue zone, and this is something that Team 4M don't really want to be in. I guess it's just the scarcity of those vehicles that they don't find them in the early stage of the game, and once they go for the late rotation, it's blues that starts taking them down, and this is something that they need to get rid of as soon as possible.
Well, they most certainly do, and they need to get back on their feet to get back into the zone and into the fight itself. But for now, of course, there will be the side of T4M that will be left out in the open, and of course, we shall see and come back to them if they're able to get themselves in the comfort of the zone. For now, it is, of course, 13 and a half minutes in as we do see BhaiBrother's two final players now taking on another fight as they find out RudeDude making a rotation down towards the compound that is right in front of them. And again, on through the other tangent when it comes down to BhaiBrother's other player, as will be finisher, he is keeping an eye on the back step, where of course they were pushed on against from the side of BFS. So an interesting positioning is what is coming in from the side of BhaiBrother's. They are trying to be aggressive, but eventually, again, it is just seeming like a 4v1 sort of a situation where, of course, it was Finisher who was not part of the fight, and Tamim was trying to take on that onslaught against those four players of RudeDude who find themselves at least in the cover of the compound, whereas BhaiBrother's are out in the open. So, not entirely sure what the communication is between Tamim and Finisher for the moment. Maybe he's getting too literal with the name that he's got, which is, of course, Finisher, so he wants to take on the fight, but they better be careful because it's a versus 4 situation that they will find themselves in pretty much with every fight, and that is something that is not going to be an easy affair. But we shall see if it favors them or not as the game progresses on along.
Exactly, completely on and off side, because on the back end side it is going to be off XBROTHERS. On this one side it is going to be RudeDude. On the other side it is going to be BFS. Completely pinned down is what BhaiBrother's are now, and also they have given a lot of confuse because we just a moment saw they were taking shots on RudeDude. So if RudeDude tries to pin them down, they don't have any other option than to just resist the bullet, because even if they just go on a back flank, it will be BFS pulling them down. So all I want from them is to just fall back from this situation. They have those buggies and those vehicles that is still very close towards them, but I guess they are just trying to take the fight, and this may lead to their demise. And I guess this is something that I really don't want to happen, at least on the sides of BhaiBrother. But on the other hand, it is gonna be of Venom Legend that is also on a completely open stance, and they are pretty much close towards their one rival, their big name, and that is gonna be on A1 Esports. But this circle shift will completely decide which team will be getting the favor. And here we go. It is going to be the center teams that already positioned themselves into, and they are finding themselves still in these compounds and this open land. But the most important point is the circle has completely gone in the open. Apart from those isolated compounds, those small shacks, we don't get to see a lot of compounds. So we can get to see a lot of fights in this early stage of the game, and those wheat farms also can come into the play. That means a lot of utilities needs to be used.
Absolutely. With that, we're at 16 minutes into the game, and still all the teams are still surviving. So again, a slow gameplay being showcased from the side of these teams. Eventually, when you talk about the kills itself, we can clearly see that BFS is the only team that has participated in those kill departments and have gotten 2 points for themselves. On the other tangent, all the other teams have tried to take on quite a lot of fights, but have not really been able to confirm those kills. With that, Venom Legends taking on a fight towards the rotation of TRZ. Venom Legends were out in the open, as we did see, and below their positioning, south of their positioning, it was TRZ that was moving on to get into the zone. And now with the circle moving away, it is going to be tough luck for a few of these teams as they find themselves in the open, and making a rotation out in the open as well will be a very precarious situation for a few of them. But we shall see if any other team will be retaliating. Right now, of course, it will be IPG that is going to try and make a rotation for themselves, but right next to them was A1 Esports as well. So an interesting affair right there. But now it is Venom Legends Steel Shot who finds himself very close to the players of TRZ Esports. Mamba Noob pushed on along, created that smoke for him, for his teammates. But now, as he tried to take on a fight, he has, of course, been given a backstab from the side of BB, and that's, of course, BhaiBrother. So, not an interesting turn of events for the side of TRZ Esports, as they did try and take on a fight, but onto the back angles, they did have a flank angle that was being covered from the side of BhaiBrother's on top of that ridge, and of course have been retaliated. On the other tangent, we do find A1 Esports in a bit of a tricky situation with themselves.
Indeed, they were in a predicament, but thanks to Jack's onslaught that came in and that really saved the team from getting eliminated. Since that grenade takes down Sinister also, but A1 Esports, I guess still they have the 2 and 3 players still surviving. But talking about this fight that was still happening in the area on the edge of the circle, where Venom Legends was really pinning down the players of RudeDude. RudeDude certainly not in the best of the position, because on the backhand side it is BhaiBrother's that did take some of the shots, but BhaiBrother's need to be careful because it's Venom Legend that can also take the fight in his own hand. But Fipe, and this is the man of in the charge. But the moment Mamba Noob and STF tries to fall away from this situation, or maybe just try to create a artificial cover, some grenades can be easily lobbed in. But I guess TRZ are in a really tough situation, and all they can just do is to just find themselves away and hope not any grenade or utilities are being used. But so is not the case, as STF have been taken down. It's now all down to Mamba, and Mamba has also been taken down as Venom Legends slowly and steadily getting close towards those high kill points. 3 kills is what they have been able to secure, and now they are charging in onto the players of BhaiBrother's and onto the players of RudeDude that is still far away. On the other hand, it is going to be A1 Esports. Those DMR actions don't really get to see in the game of Erangel, but when it's Jax, it is certainly possible.
Well, and he certainly is taking that onslaught to the face of the compound that is being held for now from the side of SLX Esports. And SLX have all four members alive, but the only thing that's not working for them, of course, is the fact that they are not in the zone for now. They are going to be finding themselves in a bit of a tricky affair when it comes down to A1 Esports. Well, this team is certainly out there in the open, and this team needs to push on along, try and create themselves a flank angle to get themselves in the comfort of the zone itself. It is not going to be an easy task, as we can clearly see on the mini map. A1 Esports is down towards the southeastern side, and SLX is further up towards the northern side of that positioning, and that is something that, of course, for now is favoring SLX compared to A1 Esports. So a tricky situation for SLX as well as A1 Esports, but SLX have at least have the cover of the compound, whereas on the other tangent for A1 Esports, that certainly is not the case. So the fight will be fixed from the side of A1 Esports, and they're going to have to rush and push to be a part of this game. For now, of course, things are not looking too good for them. On the other tangent, to talk about the circle itself, we do have these teams who find themselves in the comfort of the zone as well, which is, of course, XBROTHERS right here, T4M, and right next to them is going to be BFS as well. So a decent play being brought on from these teams, but which team is it going to be that will be able to retaliate first and get those knocks confirmed for themselves? Onto the kill field, we certainly have quite a lot of fights that are being taken on. It is, of course, T4M's Marcos right here, who's taking on the players of BFS as they try to make that rotation to get themselves in the comfort of the zone. Sadly, is not being allowed.
I was really questionable about the positioning of BhaiBrother because they were in the open, but the way they are reacting to the situation, because a moment back we just saw them retaliating to the players of Root. Certainly, BhaiBrothers really need to take care of, and they are doing it in a fashion for now. But on the other side, it is going to be of XBROTHERS that is charging on the players of Team 4M. The players really do have a very good angle for now, and Marcus goes down, and it's all down to how Bamboo and XLR8 survive this onslaught that is coming in. The grenades and some utilities are being used because in this sort of compound, you get to see a lot of windows and a lot of incoming spaces that eventually offers the invitation to throw you grenade, but it's really tough to be honest to push it. If the player does some mistake, it can be really a game end for Team 4M. But does XBrother players have enough ability to flush out the players for TM 4M? You have to still wait for that, but you really need to commend the players of BhaiBrother because Finisher and Tami are still holding on the angles, but Marcos has been taken down, and not only Marcos, complete elimination from the sides of Team 4M, and XBrothers really badly wanted this competition, and successfully they have been able to do so. On the other hand, it is going to be Dante that is really facing the brunt of RudeDude's grenade and the onslaught that is coming in, but Flex and RudeDude still surviving further out in the open 6 and receiving all the shots, but finally reacts to the situation as 3 players still surviving from the sides of A1 Esports. On the other hand, it is going to be 3 players also from the sides of RudeDude, and they are in a close proximity. That means the player and the team that really relies heavily upon their gun power will be a team that will be emerging victorious in this fight.
Well, GT play indeed coming in from the side of A1 Esports. I mean, that was really shaky to be sitting very close to this burst out Jeep itself, and that resulted in, of course, RudeDude getting that first kill onto their slot. And of course, with this, they will be pushing on back on towards the other compound. But will A1 Esports retaliate? Of course they will. They most certainly are not going to allow the team to move on along. But RudeDude just better half into that spray and was able to, of course, bring down Dante as the push moves on along. RudeDude will be knocked, and this results in now a 2v2 affair where we've, of course, got Flex and Nightmare from the side of course, RudeDude, but on the other tangent, Jax and 6ix9ine Boy are going to be bringing in that onslaught and will certainly not be allowing the side of RudeDude to walk away that easily. They have, of course, got the confirm of their position, and Nightmare will certainly be knocked and killed, and Jax is just absolutely in control of this fight with only 1 player surviving from the side of RudeDude. It is going to be Flex, and he does not have too much long because the Molotov is on point and will burn him down and send him back to the lobby. Amazing turn of events.
3 kills is what Jax has been able to secure for now, but we head towards some other fight that is happening on the eastern side of the map where we get to see BhaiBrother still surviving. I mean, Blotter, imagine the way they are just trying to hold down this area. Nothing just to get those buggies and those vehicles that create the cover from, and this is what BhaiBrothers are now taking the brunt from the sides of SLX, because SLX was the team that really made way. It was a RudeDude, and now it is all now down to Vinicius survive this also that is coming in from the sides of SLX. Rescues tries to make the most of the situation. He is putting down in this smoke, but Finisher knows this angle that he is putting down, but none of the players are really trying to get away from the situation. But no. What do we get to see? TRZRA getting eliminated. So I really wanted to the TRZ's another lineup to find themselves in another spot, but this was not the case. But finally, we get to see the demise of BhaiBrotherS. We really need to comment because it was a moment, it was a point for a long. They really held their nerves strong for the moment.
They most certainly did. Another team that is trying to hold strong is, of course, going to be the side of BFS, where we do see Bichu has been knocked, and of course, it is Winning Legends that was slowly and steadily taking the onslaught towards the side of BFS. So, from one side, we do have Venom Legends pushing on into the zone. From the other, it is going to be A1 Esports, and on the back engine, it is going to be BFS's Mess, who is going to bring a few knocks to the side of course, Venom Legends. But for now, of course, none the wiser. They are going to push on along, and we also have VIP part of this fight with their 4 players still alive. So an interesting turn of events. The Explorers all have 4 players alive, VIP have 4 players alive, but it is an open area fight. And of course, in that,
A1. Oh my goodness, A1 still surviving. I just imagine that they could have been taken down, but 3 players are still surviving. Dante is still onto the angle, and Jax is straight to the flank angle. But Bots in Pajamas really need to strike hard onto A1 Esports. They really don't need and want to get any sort of comfort, any sort of edge onto the player of A1 Esports, and just try to reduce A1 Esports to its minimum possibilities. On the other hand, its Venom players are still surviving. Frypan just trying to take down the fight, but XBROTHERS. Now, they have been in this compound. They have been on the edge of the circle for the last 15 minutes. And now, bringing all the 4 players down towards this last circle, it's really a good chance for them to convert them in a chicken dinner. But what do you think? A1 Esports, will they be able to find themselves away from this situation? Because this is something that A1 Esports have been able to do in the past. If they do so today, this will be a miraculous gameplay coming in from themselves.
it most certainly will be. But another conversation to be had is, of course, going to be for the side of XBROTHERS. They have taken knocks from the side of Venom Legends for quite a while, and they still are not retaliating to the same. They're not using any utilities. They are not pushing on. Now, finally, we see Faisal take the fight in his conversation, and that is something that, of course, they had to do. There was no two ways about it. They had already taken those knocks. They should have had the information a lot earlier than they decided to reply in. But nevertheless, of course, with that, Venom Legends will be sent back to the lobby. A1 Esports have lost one of their players. They're a 2-man army now, and as Jax and 6ix9ine Boy push on along, its brothers are looking very much in control of the fight. Right behind A1 Esports is, of course, going to be BIP, but they already have so many of their knocks that they are trying to, well, get as much away from the fight as possible. The smoke is all that was helping Mr. BBC and the likes, but not for long, because after all, the circle has moved away and is going to now push the players of both these teams, BIP as well as DoD, to get into the zone, and that's not an easy task. It's easier said than done. And in that so as XBROTHERS took the fight towards that side, A1 Esports players have retaliated and utilized that, and it is Jax who is just bringing in some venomous plays to the side of course, XBROTHERS. Now it is a 2v2 affair between these two, and BIP's final player just trying to survive.
Jax onto the onslaught. He is having the 5 kill of what he must have been able to secure, but King needs to survive the situation. He needs to find himself away from the situation, and one thing that can eventually go into the favor of XBROTHER is that finally Mr. BBC from the sides of Boss in Pajama has been taken on. Finally, it's down to a Mexican standoff where we get to see 3v2 affair, but A1 Esports need to realize the situation, but no! A grenade comes in straight in the lap of 6ix9ine Boy, and he has been taken down. Jax needs to survive the situation. He won't be. And finally, XBROTHERS getting into the fray, getting a chicken dinner in game of Erangel. I mean, what a chicken.
Well, we were just talking about this team in the previous game, right? I mean, just at times that they're able to perform and outperform, they're just so very much in control. And at times they just completely are sent back into the lobby based on their reputation getting caught off guard itself. But this time they were in control, as you so perfectly mentioned as well during the past, that it was holding that compound for like 10 to 15 minutes straight. And as the game pushed on along, the circle worked in their favor, and eventually, of course, they had the 4-man advantage, pushed in and took the fight head on against the players of Venom Legends and the others, and then eventually, of course, walking away with a chicken dinner. So find themselves in the top 8 now. Amazing stats for the side of XBROTHERS as you move on towards MVP. Now this is where A1 Esports' Jax stood out. We did see him take on that fight against the players of course, XBROTHERS. Was able to bring 2 of them down to their knees, was not able to get a confirmed kill on the other 2, but of course, as the game progressed, this lad was so much in control. 1343 damage that he was able to dish out. 6 kills, right, but 1343 damage.
Massive turnoff event as you perfectly have mentioned in the past. But Jax, the way he is dominating the lobby, it's another thing that the team eventually as a whole gets that you can win or not. But he's really trying hard. He is making his presence feel, and not only him, there has been other teammates also in the frame. But the way, as we just got to see A1 Esports, they were still able to get close towards the chicken, but still it was excellent because thanks to that hold of the compound, and I need to say patience is the key, Blogger, to be honest. Patience is the key. They held the compound, they held their nerves, and at the end of the day, they not only got the 15 total placement points, 13 kills is what able to secure XBROTHERS, if I'm not wrong, that they have been able to stop this match, and XBROTHERS completely decimating the lobby all of a sudden. So today's game, it has been a turn of an event. If we just talk about that, because XBROTHERS, Boston Pyjamas, SLX, so now these teams that were not eventually on the top 10, top 8 have now started climbing in.
Well, GG play indeed. Along with that, DoD walking away with 8 total placement points, so decent affair. BFS right there walking away with 8 total points in terms of 4 kills and 4 placement points. So again, a GG play. But along with all of this, I mean, BhaiBrother, you perfectly mentioned it once again during the game. Asked yourself that BhaiBrother, the way they held that compound and the game, the circle worked in their favor. That's one thing, but still, they held their horses fought till the last breath, and well, again, I mean, worked out in their favor, of course, walking away with decent amount of points that team. But sadly, T4M not able to do so. TRZ Esports not able to do so. And we did see TRZ Esports try and survive the onslaught from VNM Legends, but it was just not an easy positioning for them. And of course, that resulted in their demise. But as the game progressed, once again, it is those underperforming teams who have just completely dominated, I would say.
I just feel like TRZ Esports, when they go for the onslaught or those aggressive approach, where they just go for those, not YOLO, but those strategized approach with those aggressive gunpower is where TRZ Esports just shine. Despite, if you have to talk about this, it was a moment where they could have retaliated, but for long they just waited, and they couldn't have done anything else, because on the backhand side it was BhaiBrother that was completely pinning them down. But for now, for the 3 games, I'm a bit of on a susceptible position whether or how TRZ Esports will be or has been performing in these 3 matches. But the way A1 Esports really tried dominating the fight here, Nightmare was in the car, but he was taken down as from that ground side of car where his legs were completely visible, and that was sort of demise for RudeDude. And then it was VNM Legends, the player were taken down slowly and steadily thanks to Fazil on spot spotting technique from his side, and then it was all easy for them as A1 Esports really made it helpful for them as they reduced VNM Legends number to 0, and finally it was all down to how BBC will be spotted down. But before that, we really had some twist on the tail, and that twist was brought down by 6ix9ine Boy and Jax. But finally, that grenade by King P, that sealed the victory for XBROTHERS, and finally a game going into the favor of XBROTHERS.
Well, with that, as we push on along, once again, A1 Esports will find themselves in the comfort of the first position, the pole position of the leaderboard. No two ways about it, with 198 points and 2 games still remaining for the day. So they are most certainly going to be crossing that 200 marker. There's nothing stopping them. TRZ Esports on the second position, well, with 151 points. So again, there's a lot of difference between them two. But in all of this, VNM Legends have this time around pushed up to the 4th position from the 5th with 126 points, and might in the next game be able to actually topple over UnstoppableX, because UnstoppableX is not playing today. So that could very well be the case and will work in favor of VNM Legends. But let's see what sort of a point difference will they be left with by the end.
VNM Legends are waking just at the right point, because it was one team that was really chasing them, and that was of IPG. But now, since VNM Legends really had a very good game for now the lead between them and one team that was IPG, now that is pretty much significant, and this thing that is pretty tough. I wouldn't say tough, but still, the players and the team from sides of IPG need some significant effort to counter on with that, and then we get to see VNM Legends just because of that on that 4th spot. But moving on to the 3rd half of the chart, where some teams are really not good. DoD Esports. Now we need to talk about this team. Again, it was AG from their side where he survived the onslaught, brought the whole team to that 3rd last team, and I guess this was team to secure, I guess, 8 or 10 placement point, but still, I guess, no kill whatsoever. So you can secure more and more placement points, but you need to make sure that other teams from the players need to be taken care of, because if you are trying hard, it's other team in the lobby that is still trying hard. Because had not there been the case, we would have easily seen DoD on the third half of the chart, but still they are really struggling on the third half of the chart.
That is true. But on the other tangent, PFS find themselves in the top
Yeah.
16. They have moved away from that final page, but it is still very, very close. I mean, they're on the 16th, no, 15th spot with 65 points. Right next to them, the team on 16th is with 62 points. The team on 17 is on 62 points. The team on 18 is on 61 points. So, so close. I mean, still, two games are remaining, yes, but it could go in any team's favor, right?
Exactly.
With that, let's keep our fingers crossed that these teams bring up that sort of a dominating play in the next game as well, as we go on a short break before we jump into match number 4.
Are you keeping it real? I'm calling shotgun, wanna see my baby run. Oh, what's the word on the sea? Kicking up the dust, if you know what I mean. We got a good thing going.
Hello and welcome to PUBG Mobile National Championship Bangladesh region. All thanks to Oppo F19 Pro. We've got 3 games done for the day. This is of course day number 4, which means only 2 more days remain after this in the semi-finals, and those 2 days is the only opportunity these teams will have to be a part of the top 16. With that, of course, let's get jumping right off the bat into game number 4.
Exactly, this is the game of Sanhok, the first game for the day of Sanhok, because we had the 3 games to be more precise. The fourth game of Sanhok. Right off the bat, we get to see Team 4M just dropping down towards the area, maybe towards the area of Mog Nai to Camp Bravo. We get to see them, but Bots in Pajamas have been certainly going downtown towards the area of Kampong and split towards Dog, but A1 Esports and VNM Legends will be certainly topping down towards the area of Venom towards the Cow at Bootcamp, this area of A1 Esports, where they usually go towards IPG. Also, onto that camp Alpha, we have seen in the past, and slowly and steadily, we have seen all the teammates going down towards the area. XBROTHERS. So now this is a team that got the chicken in the last match. Now looking pretty strong at the moment. Not pretty strong because they are just dropping down on the area. We get to see how they take the fight. But I'm really hopeful to see how TRZ Esports react to the situation. But still now, they haven't found themselves in the grooves as possible because the raw aggression that we get to see from Mamba, Noob, and Rare FPS, and the rest of the players, as CFU also, we haven't seen. It was sort of. We got the glimpse of it in the game of Erangel, but not in the game of Miramar, not in the last Erangel 2. But once this Sanhok comes into play, so now this is the decider for all the teams and all the players.
Well, TRZRA certainly taken on certain fights right there, as we did just see, but I'm not entirely sure what team was it that was at the receiving end. Nevertheless, I mean, it was TRZRA, whereas on the other side, TRZ Esports, we do find that team up towards the Harten area. And of course, for now, there is no team that is going to be around their region to contest their allocation. But of course, when it comes down to the teams for now, they are all looking pretty comfortable. And with that, a decent circle being brought on along,
Yeah.
and this is going to be allowing so many of these teams to make even late rotations for that matter. That will not be an issue for first few circles, after which, of course, things can go a bit haywire. But again, I mean, this is a small map compared to the other maps, and of course, that implies those third party situations that we do normally end up seeing. But also, another thing is that probably when it comes to the placement of these teams on the map right now. It is going to be BFS that is so very close to Mortem. So that is the only contestation of fight that can be anticipated. About that, all teams have found their own wonderful locations and are certainly not going to be in any close proximity for a fight for now. Of course, there are 15 teams that are chiming in along, and this is just the 2 minute marker. So when it comes down to the entirety of the saga, when it comes down to the national championship of Bangladesh region itself, for the viewers just to know, $30,000 will be on the line for the teams competing in the finals. This is the semi-final stage, day number 4. It is a 6-day affair, the semi-finals, and of course, only the top 16 teams move on to be a part of the final itself. The other will sadly not be able to move on. But of course, that is of all speculation for now, because when it comes down to the overall standing or the leaderboard, so to say, it is so very close from the 16th position down towards the 20th position. There's only a difference of about 2 to 4 points between those teams. So it is going to be a very, very close affair by the end of the day. For now, of course, it is Mortem once again on our screens as they try and get their loot acclimated and move on along towards the next compound and get themselves into the zone itself.
Yeah, pretty much the same. Not much of action as we expect in the game of Sam. That means now the team look pretty much settled, satisfied with the things that they are to offer. But some teams are looking to just scout down the areas, and that is going to be of BhaiBrother. They are on the area of Lakavi, I guess, where Abir is just trying to go here and there, but we need to make sure that they just don't encounter anywhere because these are circles we have seen in the past a gazillions shift because this is a hybrid circle, the most common circle, where most certainly we get to see the areas where on the either on the southern side of Paradise Resort or on the eastern side of Bootcamp to get the circle conscripted too. But the moment we were saying, we got to see how BFS do they have the realization that RudeDude is pretty much closer towards them. So now RudeDude is a team that till now didn't have a day that really did expect it to have because till now they haven't made that podium finish that I particularly want themselves because Rudro for the Nightmare and Flex really had a good chance in the past, really made it proud. the team as a whole with all the synergies and the combinations that we talk about. But once you are in this game of Sanhok, this is a team that really heavily depends upon and heavily relies upon the gunpowder and the aggression. But we really need to counter it because in the game of Sanhok, we have seen a lot of third-party situation, a lot of sound cue situation where it gets distributed to an extent where it can be pulled down at any moment. And I guess for now, it's a nightmare that is on the charge that is just trying to create the flank angle or maybe trying to create or collect more and more info for now. The gate on this right hand side of Ness has been broken down. That means maybe some shot that has come in from the sides of Nightmare. That means Ness position has been revealed. But do the players from the sides of RudeDude have enough of information to take him down? We have to still wait for that. But on the other hand, we can get to see slowly and steadily PFS players on the rest of the players are making close in the rest by proximity. But A1 Esports, are they in the same proximity? We can get to see in a latter.
Well, they certainly are, but will the fight be taken? Because right now, again, when it comes to the utility affair, the war is certainly not favoring BFS, but we shall see if any of these teams will want to retaliate. It is again a stalemate situation that we have seen so many times on these maps, and eventually, when it comes down to Mess, he better not showcase that because as soon as this fight is taken on, it is maybe even an esports opportunity to third party these both teams, and that is something that, of course, we do not want BFS to be a part of. But eventually, again, that is going to be a conversation that they shall have to answer. For now, it is a really fanned out approach that we are looking at from the side of BFS. But eventually, will it be favoring them if this fight is taken from the side of RudeDude's team? It is going to be Rudro and Pateen who are on the flank angle, whereas Nightmare is the only one who is looking on down towards the compound of BFS. So, stalemate situation is what Rude Dudes are creating for now. And of course, this is only 7 minutes into the game. So, not a lot that we can expect in terms of the fight. But now, when it comes down to IPG, a wonderful turn of events for this team. But this time around, they are jumping in with only a three-man army. First airdrop being dropped on along, and it is going to be bringing in the LMG, the MG3 light machine gun that is available, and it is Bad Intentions Wipe Out, who will certainly be walking away with that. And along with that, in the kill feed, we have P4M chiming in along, taking on a third party approach towards the players of Root Dudes.
Rude Dudes player really need to be cautious. We have talked in the past. I have particularly mentioned this that Rude Dude they were trying to take up the fight, but we have already seen in the past how eventually the player gets vulnerable in a sort of position where they're just not able to react and retaliate, even if they are being preferred down by some of the leads that do come in from the enemy side. And so was the case here. But on the other hand, it seems that now BFS are trying to take a fight with BhaiBrother's in a very close proximity. On the other hand, for Dean, gets confirmed that this is certainly not the start that Fruit Dude was particularly looking at because in the last three games that was certainly not the case that went in their favor. But losing on to the one player in the early stage of the game, especially in the game of Sanhok, where you don't cannot just find yourself in the same spot for a more long time. This is certainly going to hurt their chances. But I'm really waiting to see how from here they will be trying to maneuver the strategies. Will they be trying to do something else? We have to still wait for that. Or some other players have also spotted them down. That's still the case. But on the other hand, it's BhaiBrother's that are really seizing this opportunity to pull down the nade onto Pichu and Bulu, to be more precise, because he is very close. But rest of the pack is completely away from them, and this is something that can also hurt BFS as a whole team in its own way. On the other hand, Circle is slowly and steadily moving in, and we can get to see most of the team are making a close way into the circle. We can expect some fight on the southern side where we have a lot of teams like Mortem, SLX, XBROTHERS, and Oxy, Watson Pajamas, and also Silent Cloud making an entry. But apart from that, I guess for next 2 to 3 minutes, there is still a stalemate situation because it's just the 15 teams in the lobby, and the players are just not willing to take the fight in its own hand because at the end of the day, they know that even if we get our one match slipped away, there are rest of the lobby just waiting to pounce upon that opportunity.
They most certainly are, and I'm sure will be pouncing on as soon as the opportunity arises. And that is something that so many of these teams certainly want to be able to get. But this time around, when it comes to this lobby, we are looking at quite a lot of teams that have jumped in with a three-man squad, and that could very well be the demise for a few of them. We shall have to see how this case turns out to be. For now, of course, it is XBROTHERS King GG who is on Austrians, who was the one who was able to get a wonderful turn of situation for himself and get that chicken dinner working in his favor. With that, on to the other side of this game itself. On the map, we have BFS taking on the fight against the players of BhaiBrother, and it was Vichu who was taken onto that onslaught, but has been retaliated. And of course, now BhaiBrothers know exactly where this team is. It is going to be tricky for the side of BhaiBrothers as well as BFS to take this fight because it is going to be a long base situation when it comes to the
Yeah,
fight itself. And that could very well be the reason where this might not turn into points that these teams
exactly.
are looking for.
Definitely can't agree more with you on this situation because it's a long distance fight and that successfully brought down the one player down and Mess also was spotted down by Tamim, but the distance is so significant enough that they won't be able to secure the kill. But I'll still be waiting whether the revival has come in time or not. But I brothers, I guess they have given a lot of sound cues and now they are being surrounded by a lot of players. And not to forget that Gullu is still holding that angle where he was close towards that shorelines area where we get to see a small lake and that eventually can invite some grenades or some use of utilities or an onslaught onto the player of BhaiBrother. Gullu is still safely holding his position. On the other hand, it is going to be the rest of the two members from his team that is completely away from all this fight. So he really need to take care of the situation. Else he might backstab BhaiBrother. And BhaiBrother, I guess they have the slightest of the info that some players was already on that side, and just because of that, we can get to see again and again the player are hovering their crosshair aligned onto that side. But for now, it's still 12 minutes, close to 12 minutes, what we have seen in this match. But still, I'm just waiting. This match can explode at any moment because all the teammates from rest of the sides have their info. Take an example of BhaiBrother. BhaiBrother have been spotted down by BFS and also by Boston Pajamas and also maybe by some other teams, but they are just not taking the shot. Maybe just when the third circle takes a shift, then we can get to see some fights. But on the other hand, as we were just saying, even Esports Jax falls down as a brilliant play comes in from sides of VNM Legends.
Well, for now, fights certainly are coming in along. It is 12-minute marker for the moment. Of course, third circle, that is still a minute away to get into the fourth one. But eventually, when it comes to the play itself, it is going to be X-Brothers who are just pushing along in the... Wow, this is a crazy play that they are bringing to the table. SLX was very, very close to them and, of course, will be able to respond with that sort of aggressive stance that Faisal was making with his vehicle. He was giving away audio cues to the entire lobby, and that has now resulted in him being sent back into the lobby, and SLX has the better half of this fight for the moment. It is going to be King PG who has been spotted, and of course, Vat69 going to try and just make the opponents as soon as he possibly can. For now, of course, they've lost one of their players as well, so it does turn into quite a tricky situation for SLX as well. But we have seen this team perform and outperform the competition with even a three-man squad today itself. So nothing taken away from them or their stats. But the only thing is that it is a fight that is being taken out in the open, and that is something that could invite some third-party positioning.
Exactly, and as we just get to see all these fight, SLX are certainly puncturing the hopes of X-Brothers, a team that got the chicken in the last match, is certainly not looking good at this point because they have been brought down to it on the other side. It's Bots Pajamas that is certainly making the most of the situation because time and again we are getting to see a lot of players they are trying to eliminate. And here we go, this map feed is already on its way, and on the right hand side of the screen we can get to see Bots Pajamas have taken a lot of fight with Silent Cloud, and this was certainly out of those safe circle. And once they take all these fights, I guess maybe Boss Pajamas then try to go for this extreme rotation and tries to make an entry from another side, and then they might be facing some brunt of those the players that will be waiting them to welcome them. We have to still wait for the situation if that happens or not. But for now, SPs are really making sure that they are constantly checking upon the ex-brothers player. They have the exact position, and we can get to see VAT69 with some extra flank angle that he has created, and the rest of the players sides of SLX can really give the info to VAT69 if he's able to take the players down. But TRZR is Scorpion can also take down the players of X-Brother. That means X-Brothers can be in a sandwich like situation where they can find themselves between two teams, and Scorpion has that M416 in hand, and he can really take the fight in his own way. Still, 4 players alive, but still, gotta look at this 15-player alive. Close to 15 minutes into the game, just the few players that have been eliminated, we can just count on their numbers. We can expect a hell of a game, a lot of fight, a lot of bloodshed, a lot of bloodbath in the next 7 to 8 minutes.
Most certainly will be, because after all, these teams are being pushed on into a small little area based on the circle compromising on itself, and that is something that, of course, will not allow 15 teams to survive. For now, a very passive approach being showcased from these teams, because they know what is on this line and what is on stake. With that, Nightmare right now could very well bring in an onslaught to the players, of course, of BIP. With that, will he be able to take that push? Will he be able to take that fight? He has decided not to for the moment, and will certainly be pushing on behind them, and then, of course, will try and get the better half of this fight. Finally, we are looking at fights being brought on along, and in doing so, it is going to be Rudro and Nightmare are the 2 players alive from the side of RudeDude. And eventually, when it came down to the rotation of the team of BIP, they have been able to secure themselves into the zone. With that first team to get eliminated is going to be BFS, as they try to be out in the open to get themselves into the zone. And none other than T4M were the ones who were able to annihilate them. But along with that, T4M are yet not done. T4M are pushing on to the players of VNM Legend as well, as we look on to the onslaught on that mini map, which has just disappeared as I talk about it. It was on towards the northern side that T4M and VNM Legends find themselves.
Exactly, they are just trying to fight themselves out and trying to create more and more total points in terms of total kill point that they secure. But even Esports again holding not the central lines of the circle, but certainly a thing where 3-1 split is what they are playing for now. Dante again going for the flank angle where he has the safe haven of compound, and the rest of the 2 players, Sinister and Jack, and one more player from their side, are still holding that big mountain that can eventually help them secure more and more kill points, and can exactly get into the situation for the team that is trying to come in from that east side of the map. On the other hand, Venom Legends are successfully taking the fight, because just a moment ago we saw Marcos going down, has been finally eliminated also, but it is certainly not looking good for Silent Cloud after surviving, and that is gonna be of Cole Balish. On the other hand, it is also not looking good for RudeDude, and they need to find themselves away from this thick and thins, and a lot of the Holocaust has been struck down, and thanks to the onslaught that has been constantly coming in from the sides of Bots and Pajamas, Razor wipe out onto the left side, and BO is making sure that even if he was a single of a pixel of RudeDude's player, he will be taking him down, and eventually RudeDude has been sent to lobby. On the other side, it's A1E. It's Dante all of a sudden just trying to pepper down the bullets onto the players, and this is not looking good for Bots and Pajamas, because Dante was the anchor for his team, and he is successfully doing his own thing.
Well, he most certainly is, and is certainly in control of the fight and the situation as well. But eventually, Viper will be able to get closer and closer to his teammate to be able to get that revival confirmed for himself. For now, of course, EON Esports is the only player. Dante is going to be part of this fight, because the others are looking on to other tangents and on top of the hill situation, where they do have that much more information, reliability based on the positioning that they find themselves in. But right now, of course, Dante, will he be able to push away from this situation, or will he be able to take the onslaught to the face of BIP itself? When it comes down to BIP, there are the only 2 players surviving, but a lot of kills that they have been able to secure for now. So, of course, EON Esports have not yet gotten those many kills, and in that, IPG's Sensei, what a perfectly set up nade onto the player of SNX, and Fury has been brought down to his knees, and only a matter of seconds before Sensei is going to be completing his job.
Fury didn't have any other option just to face the onslaught that was coming in. Before he could have reacted, it was an on-spot grenade that just came in from Sunset, and now they are trying to dominate onto the rest of the players. So grenades are being lobbed from the sides of IPG, but still 6ix9ine is surviving. And look at this, the rest of the players have just left him abandoned, and he is just surviving on the brink of the Advanced 69 smoke, but Dictator has been taken down. That means more and more smokes need to be created. But in this situation, if 6ix9ine realizes this fact and the smoke dissipated, it has dissipated. Mahfouz onto the backhand side. He can take him down at any moment. He has become the support now, and he will be fighting with the full force. And this is certainly going to be the case. Vastus is still not able to take any player down. He had the opportunity, but I guess he has missed it, but Sensei just retaliating to the same spot and same situation. He will be taken down. That means IPG with all games defense strong, they will be trying to make an entry, but will rescue allow this entry? We have to still wait for that.
Well, what a play this was from the side of SLX's player, but eventually, sadly, he was not able to get those kills confirmed for himself. Of course, the final player of SLX, who knows the exact positioning of IPG's players as they try and get themselves into the zone. But right now, as one thing SLX's player needs to be careful of is the fact that he is taking on the fight, but right next to them, there's going to be another team, and that team can very well retaliate. And, well, no, that is not required because, after all, IPG will be able to bring him down. And in doing so, as we move on to the center of this, or not the center rather, towards the edge, which was the center a few minutes ago, it is going to be A1 Esports and VNM Legends, very close to each other for now. 6ix9ine boy not being able to retaliate. Steel Shot has been brought onto his knees. Fireman has been brought down to his knees. They're going to try and get into the zone, but as they do so, the cover of the smoke will be going away from them. A1 Esports have on the other side other teams that they are trying to bring down, and that's none other than T4M for the moment. And as Jax tries to take on that fight, of course, the final player loser could very well retaliate against T4M. 44M's revenge, so to say, but for now has decided not to do so. On the other side, Jax trying his level best to spot out this final player that they do know should be around in the region. And yep, in a matter of seconds, that is being confirmed. We are down to 7 teams alive.
Team 4M, it was A1 Esports, it was VNM Legends onto the right hand side, onto the eastern side, and finally VNM Legends survives, A1 Esports survives. The one that was most susceptible, and that was of Team 4M, has been sent to lobby. Now it comes down to 7 teams, 20 players still alive, and which VNM Legends is still surviving. The players have been sent onto the edge of the circle, but some players are really struggling to make an entry onto the other side. It's A1 Esports that is really taking the fight, but IPG has just eliminated PRZ a complete squad wipeout. Thanks to the onslaught that is coming in from the right of Sensei, and also Dictator on the other side. It is Basu Pitama that has also been sent to lobby. Thanks to the onslaught that is coming in from the right of 6ix9ine boy. But in all these fights, 6ix9ine and Sinister are only the 2 players surviving. But IPG, they are just not waiting. Sensei with 1 more knock, 4 plus 3 plus 2. That makes a total of 9 kill IPG in the early stage of the game. We still have 11 players apart from the same team that's still surviving. How long is IPG is trying to capitalize on this kill number? We have to still wait for that. And onto all these fights, it's VNM Legends 3 players that are still surviving, because VNM Legends had that sort of the ridge where they could have played. They had that edge, but certainly this was not the case for A1 Esports. On the other hand side, IPG's players were looking pretty aggressive, but thanks to that onslaught that just came in at the right point from the side of A1 Esports. On the other hand, high point, if I don't forget about TRZ, they are still surviving. Mama Atomic still in the frame. RudeDude ES is just getting down, and they are making it really pretty difficult for VNM Legends to survive in the same proximity.
Well, Mamba Noob, as you did just mention, was able to bring down a player of VNM Legends, and now, of course, these 2 players are going to try and bring on the onslaught to the name of VNM Legends itself. Atomic has been brought down to his knees. Rare FPS not looking too good because his revival will not be confirmed. Atomic will be given a revival, of course, but as this goes on, VNM Legends on the other tangent will also be given a revival. A1 Esports could very well have tried to get a third-party situation, and they most certainly will. Sinister has, of course, given a revival to his teammate 6ix9ine boy as well, and in doing so, have now put on to be an onslaught for the side of VNM Legends with 4 teams alive. TRZ, Mamba Noob is still around the corner, and Atomic is also there to support him. But as they do so, it is going to be in through the back lines. Mortem jumping in along to take an onslaught to the face of TRZ Esports, but not for long, because TRZ Mamba Noob is very well prepared and equipped, and now resulting only 2 teams alive.
Did we just get to see Mama Noob AKM with 6x spray eliminating A1 Esports? If that was the case, he's certainly reigning supreme in all these matches, because it is certainly too much difficult for the players to control. But thanks to that onslaught that is still coming in, and he's just not waiting. Atomic takes 1 more player down, but finally Mamba has been taken down, and it all comes down to how Atomic survives the situation. And the chicken going into the name of TRZ Esports. I mean, it was certainly the case. We really didn't expect to happen in this one, but thanks to the onslaught that came in at the right point from the sides of PRZ Esports. 8 kill, 23 total points, straight onto the second rank. They were on the second rank, but I guess with this 23 total points, they will be certainly working on the lead that was created by A1 Esports. But what a game for PRZ Esports, where Mamba Noob and Atomic, these 2 players have been really shining from the sides of PRC.
Most certainly have been, and I have showcased that these are the players to look on to when it comes to the future tournaments, because these players, I mean, again and again, they have been so phenomenal for the side of DRZ Esports. Absolutely sensational performance is what they showcased. And again, as you so perfectly mentioned, they are going to get closer and closer to A1 Esports' points, and that is something that is really, really good and required in the lobby, because we do not want that part of disputed lobby. But before we jump into the conversation regarding points, MVP. The MVP is going to be BMO coming in from the side of BIP with 6 kills, 816 damage that he was able to dish out. He did have a lot of healing throughout those fights as well, but in 20 minutes, that is a decent affair on Sanhok. With 6 kills, if you're walking away with 800 damage, that's really, really good.
Just the 20 minutes, 39 seconds, 6 kills, 816 damage. That is a complete stats. Could have been up a team, but certainly this was the case of BMO itself. But they didn't get a lot of coordination for the rest of the teammates. Else things could have been really difficult, and it was really difficult. But for now, it's a top 4 players for this match. We get to see TRZ Atomic featuring himself in this list with IPG Sensei, and thanks to the on-star that came in straight off the bat from IPG Sensei, that was also Mehfoos Dictator, but this time it was Sensei that really chimed upon, and also UNE Esports said this to how can we forget this lad. Look at this sensational game coming in, 3-1-7 meter. How often do we get to see daughter in a game of Sanhok this distance? I mean, eventually a player is not interested to take a fight, and he has got a successful kill of 3-1-7 meter.
Absolutely. I mean, most of the time when it comes down to this map, you are mostly going to be part of those third parties that are only a 50-meter away. And that's what this map always brings to the table. But again, I mean, Sinister, just a GG play from him in 17 meters if he was able to get that kill. Just beautiful turnover wins for him. But as we move on to the points table, this is where TRZ Esports are getting close. But again, as they get closer, UNE Esports rushes away as well with 10 kills and 10 placement points. They've got 20, so only 3-point lead that TRZ Esports was able to get, even though it was a wonderful fight.
Indeed, it was TRZ Esports. You need to give credit to these guys, because slowly and steadily they were making a close in the last game. They did vault it down, but they made sure that it was Atomic and Mamba Duke, thanks to that onslaught that came in. He realized that on the left side it was A1 Esports, and in order to get close to the chicken run, you need to take all these big guns, dogs down, and he made sure. I just want those shots to come in. Did he use that AKM success? If that was so, my head was completely blown off, because the way he tried to dominate the lobby, it was completely phenomenal. On the other side, it was certainly not the game for BFS Esport. They just walked away with not a single point from this match. BOD getting just 1 point, Silent Cloud 1, RudeDude. So now this is a team that really needs to counter on the aggression, because early stage of the game, we're talking about in the game of Sanhok, aggression is one thing that you can fight on, but you really need to counter on the other strategies, because once you are aggressive, you are really giving a lot of sound cues, because the fights tends to happen within 100 to 150 meter of proximity, and in that situation, a lot of team was available, and that led to the demise.
Most certainly did, and in doing so, the final 5 teams, XBROTHERS, RudeDude, Silent Cloud, DoD, BFS, they all need to showcase a bit more of a better play rather, is what I would say. I mean, right there, we saw XBROTHERS took a push that was not required, but again, what exactly was the strategy over there? As you make that sort of a move, you have to be better equipped for aggressive stances. And of course, moving on the map of Sanhok, in those final few moments, with a vehicle is going to be, of course, your demise, and that is what was invited. But as the game progressed along, this is where it almost felt like SLX might be able to take that fight, but sadly, it was IPG that reigned supreme with their 3-man army.
I like the way you use that word invited, because that was certainly that should not have been their strategies, because in a closer proximity, if you are moving, you are already giving a lot of sound. And in that situation, if you are using and traversing with the help of vehicle, that can certainly be the cause of a demise, and that shouldn't happen. And here we go, Mama knows that AKM 6. Oh my goodness, that was the case. Just imagine some other gun in that case. he couldn't have been able to put down the players of A1 Esports, but he intentionally used that AKM with 6x. I mean, he is really having a very good gun power for now. But for now, we head towards the overall ranking where we get to see A1 Esports, the first team in the semifinals, making a double century marker, but slowly and steadily, TRZ Esports are just not shying away, getting close towards what A1 Esports are handing for now. But what's to become us? We just didn't notice these guys have all of a sudden came up from 8th to 3rd position.
Well. This team has been slowly and steadily climbing, but again, when you talk about the difference between these teams, right? The points, it's so very
Exactly.
close, so very close from the third spot as you move on down. But again, as we move on down the list, to the second page, RudeDude are looking pretty decent for now. Of course, Mortem find themselves in this ranking on the 12th position for now. So again, a wonderful turn of events for the side of Mortem indeed. But of course, it was BFS that was looking very close on that 15th position, 16th position, and now has once again been sent back into the final page. This is so close. We are looking at 67 points on 15th position, 67 points on the 16th position. And again, Kings of BD are not playing today. So they will be playing tomorrow and they are going to be jumping in with the 10 games. And this is looking tough. This is looking really tough for these teams on the final page of leaderboard who have already played 14 games.
It's too close. The teams that are on the 16th position have a total of close to 70 points, and some teams are eventually sharing a tally of total points and still playing 4 more matches to them. I just don't imagine how far would they slip once the team that didn't play in today's match will come into the play. So now TRZ, I'm especially talking about TRZ RA, they really need to find themselves at least 10 to 12 points so that
True.
even if they slip, they don't slip too much down the line, because still they would be having 5 more matches left after the end of today's gameplay.
Exactly, and that is something where they will have to capitalize every single game, every single second into their favor to be able to, move on through the list and into the top 16. Again, not an easy affair, as we are clearly being showcased that these teams like TRZ Esports and the others, for example, UnTitled Esports, VNM Legends, they are all looking so very good and on point that it is a difficult conversation to answer. When it comes to aggressive stance, when it comes to placement points, you just don't know how it's going to go. With that, they've got 4 games done. They've got 1 more game remaining. But before we jump to that final game, we're going to go on a short break. Stick around.
Are you keeping it real? I'm calling shotgun, wanna see my baby run. Oh, what's the word on the sea? Kicking up the dust, if you know what I mean. Got a good thing
Hello and welcome to day 4 of the PUBG Mobile National Championship Bangladesh region. All thanks to Oppo F19 Pro, an amazing turn of events is what is being showcased from all these teams. From the quarterfinal, we've moved into the semis and now on to the semis themselves. Certain teams are going to be playing their 15th game. The teams that are playing their 15th game right now, of course, include A1 Esports, VNM Legends, and the likes who are doing really good. But with only 5 games remaining, there are still teams who are on the final page of the leaderboard, sadly. So it is looking like a tough situation. But the only,
Definitely.
so to say, limelight in all of this is the fact that the points are so close. From 65 to
Yeah.
67 is the difference between being in the top 16 to being chucked out of the top 16. So hopefully, Ankit, now in the final game, we can expect, not expect, but hope that those final page teams are able to get better half of this final game.
DoD really need to tie up their seat belts right now because they
All of
really
them.
need to buckle up their seat belts because after the end of today's gameplay, the rest 5 matches that they would play, I mean, it's really tough because the sort of momentum and the mindset that you play in the first 15 games, if you are bruised up in the last 5 match, there can be only two things. You can go all YOLO, you can just try to boom out the lobby, or else fall down like nothing else. You can fall like
True.
9 points also. So DoD, if even if they need to have those set of those things that they can actually need to make those close in towards the second half of the chart, they at least need to try to bring at least close towards the 15 or 12 points that we have seen in the past. It's not so that DoD has not been able to do so. We have seen them in the past. We have seen 2 games of Erangel. Since this game is also going to be Erangel's game, we really need to find at least some sort of aggression. Those, it's okay you are playing with those. It's understandable to be more precise, to be on the passive side. But once you are in those last circles, you are in those last plays, you at least need to take the fight because at the end of the day, without killing out your enemies, you won't be able to win the match.
Absolutely. And with that, the match has started off. Once again, we see SLX jump in with 3-man army. DoD have confirmed that they are playing with just the 3-man roster from the looks of it. So no two ways about it. And they are, again, like you so perfectly were mentioning, have been able to perform decently even with a 3-man approach. So they still have the opportunity, but not only DoD, right? There's Silent Cloud over there, there's BFS over there. And these teams we know are capable. It's just the game hopefully working in their favor. At times, we talk about A1 Esports and them being the magnet of the circle of the zone. At times, you just have to be able to read the game from the start itself, and then as you do so, you can start to expect a better result from yourself. And that is something that a few of these teams have showcased, like BFS working towards those placement points, T4M working towards getting that grinding work done and getting the aggressive stance on and on point. XBROTHERS working perfectly well and walking away with chicken dinner sort of plays. But again, I mean, you have to be in the right position at the right time. Otherwise, it's going to be a tricky affair for the side of this. Wow. Wow.
Just a hiss of a sound of my, I guess, exasperated word that I was actually trying to maneuver it for now because the circle has completely gone away from all the teammates. Just imagine IPG top down towards a four of five, which for now is certainly not the case because somewhere down the line they are in a closer proximity where A1 Esports are there and RudeDude are there. So this is not where I would like to be in because you won't like to be anywhere in a closer proximity where A1 Esports do or RudeDude do. But I guess that's a very good approach because already the icon has been converted into vehicle sign. That means the players are going for those rotations and they will be going down towards the lower reply. But then it would be case that how they will be making a close in towards the edge or towards the center of the circle because that's a long journey for them. Now, let's talk about Mortem ES. This is a team that also started to where they were right now because it's 046 D46 that have received an humongous amount of shots thanks to that vehicle that his team has actually had. Else, if it has been knocked on before now, it seems that they are jumping towards the area of Midland. So now what I can exactly see is that the teams that do love to go to the southeastern sides to be more precise, that is going to be a data, built up power, lower supply is certainly facing the problem. But you get to have a lot of small vehicles in those vicinities, in those highways, on those areas, and that will be helping the force and finding yourself in the same position. On the other hand, it is gonna be bots in pajamas that can certainly rule out this game because the circle is completely in their favor. And we have seen in the past, whenever these sort of circles tends to go into the favor, that's the team that tries to go in a straight approach onto the western side of shooting range, get that stronghold of those ridges that can certainly play in its own way. On the other hand, it is going to be BhaiBrother's that will certainly have a sort of a change in stance. I can already see because the players are already in a movement that maybe seems that they are trying to, or maybe trying to go towards the northern Georgia pool where you get to see a lot of compounds and those dudes will be satisfying all these players.
Well, it most certainly will be, but the conversation is, as of now, will there be any retaliation showcased from their side? On the other tangent, if you're looking at IPG, well, they made that rotation and have now found themselves once again down towards the Novodepoy area, and again on the other side of Eon Esports have had that flank out approach when it comes to the zone itself, and of course are going to try and get themselves acclimated with different routes and finally get together to be a part of another fight and another day. But eventually, right now with DoD on our screens, well, getting there, they are getting there. Of course, getting the best of the best loot is very, very important because after all, when you have the correct loot, you are going to be able to make better positioning and awareness in those fights that you take on. But without those sights and utilities, it is going to become that much more of a difficult scenario when you find yourself close to a fight and an area. In that doing so, IPGx, another wonderful team that is going to be looking really dominating with 61 kills, 128 points. They find themselves on the sixth spot, but their journey is yet not done as they still have six total games remaining. This is going to be the final game for the day. But after this, they will be back to play those final five games as well. So, again, when it comes to these top first position, of course, is A1 Esports, as we can clearly see. Second is going to be TRZ with a decent amount of points for themselves. But after that, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, they're so close. They're so close that one good game, and we could very well see VNM Legends come up on top, BIP come up on top, Unstoppable has not been playing, and they've already accumulated 128 points in just the 10 games that they have played. So, again, it is going to be phenomenal. And after that, we see IPGx with 128 points. So, after this game, we can see or expect the team of IPG to be able to move on to the fifth spot. And the same can very well be expected of the team of XBROTHERS that's on our streams with 50 kills that they've been able to accumulate. They find themselves on the eighth spot. But their gameplay, like we were discussing earlier as well, has had a lot of ups and downs. And again, they are hoping that this game turns out in their favor as well, because eventually that is what is required for all these teams to be the best that they can. And the only way you can do that is either you play like a BFS approach and have that placement points in your area, or you be synergistic and aggressive like we've seen TRZ Esports, and consistent, of course. And that consistency will lead you a long, long way.
Exactly, that can perfectly be the case. But for now, TRZ are in a position at the 15th spot. They are on a cliffhanger where even if an inch they are pushed towards, they will be getting a great fall. And this is something that the fans and the supporters and also the players won't want to be the case for now. But let's see how the fight actually pans out. But the way Venom Legends today, it has not been there. They, to be more honest, to be more precise, because IPG and Venom started their day with a lot of similar total point sharing until after all these four matches. The lead what Venom Legends has been able to secure above IPG is still not enough. And also bringing one more fact to the table is that Unstoppable hasn't played any game for today. And just imagine if Venom, even if they don't get close towards 150, it will be an easy task for Unstoppable with the form that they have been continuing and playing in the past to overtake actually Venom. And at this stage where Venom Legend, the performance that they have held in the past, the way they have justified the names, this is certainly not that they would be enjoying the taste for now. Because one thing is for sure that from these regions, if we talk about whole, it was A1 Esports, it was Venom Legends was 1922, 2, which is certainly not the part of this tournament. But now it's teams like TRZ, Unstoppable, Bots in Pajamas that are certainly coming into the fray. And this is the place where you get a lot of limelight, because at the end of the day, the best of the best team, the best of the best player plays, because it's the national championship.
Absolutely. And in that national championship, we've come across a few of these teams that we had not heard of, but have been absolutely wonderful. I mean, few players that we've come across that have been absolutely pristine finds, so to say. And along in that conversation, we've seen teams like BFS who have showcased that they are here with the simple intention to improve and be better and be learning with every single fight. And that is what they showcased. They've done that today as well, again and again, and hopefully will keep on doing so for the next 6 games that are remaining for them. With this one counted, it'll be 5 games remaining for them. So again, when it comes down to the placement, when it comes down to their play style, they are right now playing a bit more on the back end when it comes to the aggressive stance. But overall, they are trying to work towards those points. And same, of course, can be said for SLX as well as BIP.
You were talking just a moment ago about BFS. I would really want to talk more about them, because BFS is certainly a team that we have seen their increasing performance of curve in the past. This was certainly a team that hardly and barely was qualifying, and from that stage to where they are standing right now, because in the game of Erangel, if you remember in today's first game, there was a point they were charging in onto the players of BhaiBrother, and this was certainly not the way they are used to pace up their game, because they are certainly known for their late rotation, those bringing all those 4 players and just not taking any fight, even if it is catchable. They're just not interested in taking up the fight. But the way they took the fight, they eliminated 2 players and then they just fell back. That was just spot on for their side. So we have gotten to see a lot of improvements, a lot of change, especially from these teammates and these players. But certainly, this is not the case for Venom Legends, because I guess Void just did something wrong out there. He was just hurriedly trying to spot down the player, that he just didn't realize that it's another player in the same proximity. And time and again, we have seen Venom Legends, if they try to get on some sort of approach, Venom Legends have been certainly punished to an extent where they just cannot retaliate back. And here we go, Steel Shot has also been taken down, 2 players onto their knees, but Frypan has created the flank angle, and this knock can eventually bring a lot of time. And if that's the case, the player needs the revival as soon as possible.
Well, he most certainly does, and BB are most certainly going to be prepped and ready as well. When it comes down to Frypan, well, the utilities are working in favor of Venom for the moment, and again, along with that, when it comes to Steel Shot's position, yes, the smoke is going to be helping him cover, but will that be enough? Because BhaiBrothers are in to push and are retaliating. They have got a lot of nade parades being situated right now, but once again, Frypan and his flank angle positioning could be the reason for his demise. We shall have to see how exactly BB pushes on along, because right now, when it comes to the smokes are certainly helping their cause, but along with that, when it comes down to the placement itself, Finisher is using just the vehicle as his cover, and that is something that maybe could be a bit of a situational bully. But again, we shall see if that will be bullied or not. But in that conversation, we have BFS timing in and jumping in for a third-party action.
We were just talking a moment ago, aren't we? That BFS is certainly not a team that takes the fight, but this has changed in all these 15 matches. I'm so happy. The confidence with the lad of BFS are playing, this is absolutely unbelievable on the one side, but they are certainly taking the fight in its own way. And look at the big names that they are pinning them down. It's Venom Legends, it's one of the biggest teams from this region, but they need to make sure that if they try to stand with the situation, if they try to backstab, they can be backstabbed. So now it's a test of the character, how they retaliate to the situation, because one player from their side has already been eliminated and Mess has also been put down. And all of a sudden we get to see the kill feed is just dancing. It's TRZ also taking the fight against IPG. And in all these fights where Venom Legends eventually were against BhaiBrother's, and then BFS came, and then RudeDude and RudeDude are really making BFS way. And a moment ago, BFS were looking pretty good, but so is not the case for now.
Well. GG play indeed. What an annihilation is being brought onto this map of Erangel, the final map of the day. But boy, oh boy, this was unexpected. Where third party after third party is what we've seen. And in that doing so, BFS have lost their players. Sad state of affair indeed, because it was RudeDude that came in with a rude awakening for the side of BFS that if they are taking a third party situation, they better be careful of their flanks. They sadly were not able to do so with proper equipment. But eventually, that's absolutely fine because they tried, and that is what matters. With that, Turgut is the man who is remaining for the side of BFS, and for now, that one-man army is still not done. He could very well take the game all the way into those final moments, but in doing so, now it's going to be RudeDude who are taking a fight against the players of Silent Cloud, and on the other tangent, it is going to be IPGx taking a fight against TRZRA, and this fight has been going on for quite a while. But with that, they find themselves outside the zone. They are 1,200 meters outside the zone. That was so close, Mr. Seven. But Dictator will dictate your life in this game and will be sending you back into the lobby. With that, there's of course going to be IPGx reigning supreme. They are going to be jumping away from this position as soon as they possibly can because 1,200 meters is a long ways away from the comfort of the zone.
It's a long way to be more honest, but it was certainly not the case where TRZ just walked away from this match just to 1 point. That means if they had the 67 total points, they might be somewhere closer towards 67, 68. And once the teams come into action from Group C, they will be slipping down for sure. But let's head toward the fight that is, or maybe will be erupting onto that southern side of Georgia Pool Island, the big mountain that we see where TRZ players are already aligned. But TOD, they have the realization because they are not just aggressing. That means they know that this place has already been occupied, but they need to make sure because some utilities can be used to perfection as Genius and AG can be put down at any moment. If it does, both the players are in so close proximity that if a grenade gets connected at a point, both can be down. But where is the third player from their side? I'm still waiting for that. He's not actually there because he has been eliminated. That means this team will be playing the rest of the matches for the next two players. But will he be able to just survive the onslaught that TRZ can bring in? Because TRZ is an aggressive team, as we have seen in the past. Time and again, we have repeated. And the aggression, the onslaught that comes in from Mambandu, from Rare FPS, that will be a tough situation, a predicament that they really need to come out of it. If they do so, DoD, that will be a thing that will be we need to look upon them. But for now, the way all the four players are holding four different edges, four different elevated ground, this is looking spectacular for TRZ.
It most certainly is. And DOD, I mean, they are making a lot of movement right here. They certainly are making the movements, but have still not been able to get a better half of that situation. Because after all, when it comes to the numbers advantage is going to go in favor of TRZ. No two ways about it. But moving on towards the center of the zone, we do have VNM Legends. Right next to them is going to be AON Esports. And I guess I spoke too soon because once again, the zone has moved away and it is going to go on towards the side of that hill that we just saw DOD and TRZ get themselves working in the favor. Now, TRZ being on top of that hill, and if the circle restricts itself towards that hill itself, it could be a game for TRZ, but we shall have to see if
Yeah.
the circle does so.
We have to still wait for that because the circle, the way it acts so bizarre at any moment, that one certainly is the case. But FPS really got a lot of damage hit onto its face because Genius with that precise grenade had that grenade more been well. Things could have really difficult because he is being pinned down and a 1v fight. Mamba Noob again shines again. We have been seeing in the past, and he puts the final nail in the coffin. One kill is what he has been able to secure. But look at this A1 Esports taking the charge in, and VNM Legends in a blink of an eye, they have been eliminated as Dax and 6-9 is just surviving. Sinister still getting closer and closer to the edge of the circle. But 6-9, he is still surviving. We have seen in the past that Sinister has been the player that gets eliminated at the early stage of the game, but this time it has been Dante for more cause. But on the other hand, it is going to be BhaiBrother's again and again, Trotter, because this was certainly supposed to be their game because they are still 4 men strong. On the other hand, look at the number of team that is still alive, and this is not going to be easy because the circle has, fortunately or unfortunately, has completely formed out in the open where XBROTHERS are leading the charge. They are trying to dominate this area of the ruins where we get to see a lot of destructive buildings, we get a lot of churches out there, but even Esports will also be having an eye upon this area.
Well, they are making their own rotation from the other side of Ruins itself, where they were able to decimate VNM Legends, but in doing so, have now got 3 players that is going to be for AR Esports. But this is not looking good, Jax, because he is getting so very close to Faisal right there. Faisal was not able to retaliate. Boy, had that spray been on point, it was straight in front, and Jax could have been eliminated. But now Jax comes back along with a better setup and a better spray, and is going to be retaliating onto the onslaught that was brought onto him.
A precise grenade onto the face of Jackson. He has been taken out. That means even esports need to react to the situation. Sinister is pulling out the grenade. If this grenade connects, Sherlock can be put down at any moment, but Sherlock is making a sort of rotation and he's doing the exact position. So this means Sherlock is playing on all those sound cues and he is bringing that X factor that team needs in his way. A grenade was very close to him, but the way A1 Esports is retaliating to this fight, this is mesmeric. Jax has been put down by Fazil grenades again and again, and this is certainly looking the reason where A1 Esports can be brought 6 feet down to their knees. Grenades, synchronization grenades, and it can be game end 1, 2, 3. 6-9 has been down. Sinister is the last player surviving. What do you think? So how long will A1 Esports be able to survive? Because it's XBROTHERS, the team that got chicken the last game of Erangel, still making it looking pretty difficult for A1 Esports.
Well, they most certainly are trying their level best, and with that, Faisal coming in to complete the job will not be able to do so as of now because there is Sinister who is well prepped and equipped, and of course is ready with that third party which is being brought on from the side of IPG. It has not really worked in favor of XBROTHER, but certainly has helped out A1 Esports' final player Sinister. But in that doing so, the utility usage from XBROTHERS, what a perfect spray and utility brought on from their side. With that, A1 Esports getting eliminated on the 10th position, but XBROTHERS walking away with decent amount of kills and 3 of their players.
Sad state of affairs is what I have to say for A1 Esports because it was an onslaught that was constantly brought in by XBROTHERS, but the way that they put on it was because as soon as people shifted, XBROTHERS players were really ready. But look at this, TRZ Esports are still dominating this lobby, are still holding those edges of the mountain that is still on the circle, and now it is going to be a tough affair for IPG. Some synchronized grenades can be put down onto their face, and they can be in a blink of an eye, they can be eliminated, but still they are surviving. One thing that I love about IPG from this angle is that they are just not over aggressing. They're just waiting for the opponent team to make a slightest of the mistake on which they can bounce upon. And here we go, 1-up has already been brought down.
Well, STFU has been brought down to his knees, but that's not the end of the fight, as Mamba and Atomic will push on to get that cover fire set up from the side of course, TRZ Esports. But on the other tangent, when it comes down to IPG, it is going to be a fight that they are going to try and survive for as long as possible. But behind them is going to be XBROTHERS, really motivated, as having just completed and finished A1 Esports and having sent back A1 Esports into the lobby. They're going to be chiming in to participate in the fight and perhaps get the better half of it. So again, a third party situation can be expected, and we might just see IPC in a bit of a sandwich situation. On the other tangent, there is another fight, another war taken on, and it is going to be Silent Cloud that is part of this one as they try and get into the zone, which is not going to be an easy affair because they are going to be in the crosshairs of so many teams right now.
They will be peppered down by all these leads that can be coming in from both the sides. But SLX realizing the fact that teams are trying to make a rotation, they are just trying to deploy a lot of grenades. The great use of utilities, but the McLarens is making pay for them. But no, the meme will be taking down and Orbit with that precise grenades. There is still a rock, and he just needs to pray that grenade just bounces off the surface. But those extreme parabolic way that they are trying to put down the player, that is just phenomenal coming in from the side of SLX are making sure that they are also not taking the fight with BhaiBrother, but also by XBROTHERS, and they will be finally taken down. But the fight is still on, and that's the demise of IPG. And in all these situations, TRZ emerges victorious. And I guess TRZ have a highest chance of getting chicken in this favor because they are holding the ridge, they are holding the numbers advantage, and they are having that momentum that we talk about. But will they be able to shut down XBROTHERS? Because this is only the team that from my side I can see that can be the biggest threat, the biggest challenge that TRZ will be facing, and they are making a rotation. That means it will be tough affair for TRZ because the circle has certainly gone away from them. So now the question is how TRZ will react to the situation, because it's already got pajamas just waiting slowly and steadily to bite them when they're just not careful.
Absolutely, STFU and Atomic are moving on along to get Wipeout completely wiped back into the lobby. Bots and Pajamas had already lost two of their players. Wipeout takes on a little bit of a fight, but eventually, of course, given the information away, STFU will complete that annihilation, and that has resulted in, of course, BIP with this one man. That's going to be Razor, the only man who has to then take care of his teammates as well as try and give a revival and be safe at the same point of time. So, not an easy affair, but TRZ for the moment are looking pretty much in control because once again they are at the edge of that hill, and that hill advantage is certainly reigning supreme in the way TRZ is able to approach the fight because they've got a lot of information from so many different angles that they are able to utilize into their own cover fire. But on the other hand, when it comes down to BIP, Razor, the final man surviving, is not looking good when it comes down to his health or his placement itself because he has been spotted not by TRZ because TRZ is busy making that rotation, but by other teams. And it probably was Silent Cloud that was taking the onslaught towards him. And yes, it's correct. Silent Cloud's Rage Kid on point with this first perfect burst from the Scarl is able to give a lot of damage to the final pair of BIP. So a few moments ago, BIP was looking at 26-27% win advantage, chicken dinner advantage, and probability, but now have been brought down to their knees thanks to Silent Cloud's very silent third-party approach.
Exactly the way they're just trying to fight down to this match. This is certainly going to be the case for now, but they are holding the edge of the circle. The question still remains when the circle goes for the seventh shift. That's the case that the compounds or those ridges that they're holding for now that will be taken away from their side. But look at the way TRZs are playing in a split. Atomic into the center, Mamba onto the left hand side just to take care of the bots in pajamas player. STFU is onto the right hand side just in order to take down the right hand side of the player, and FPS, is he holding that FPS advantage for now? If it's so, he will be having a clear vision. And with this, Mamba one more kill. That means Bots in Pajamas have been sent to the lobby. I'm just loving the way TRZ's esports player are trying to fight out this match. Beat me Rare FPS, beat me Mamba, Noob, STFU, Atomic. All the four players are playing the standout performers of this match and this whole of this day. And will they be able to get one more back-to-back chicken because in the last match of the Sanhok, they got the chicken. In this game of Erangel, will they be able to do so? We have to still wait for a moment. But no, Mamba sadly has been taken down. That means this leaves the stream to just 3 men standing. That means the numbers advantage has certainly gone away from their side.
Well, it certainly has, but in doing so has resulted in an equal fight coming in to this lobby where, of course, we do see XBROTHERS trying to get on to the edge towards the TRZ's flank angle. On the other tangent, we see BhaiBrother being very, very quiet for the moment, and it is Silent Cloud who are also a three-man army trying to chime in along. So it is an all-out war between these teams. And of course, XBROTHERS are being quiet, but they are slowly and steadily moving on to the location of TRZ Esports. BhaiBrotherS are certainly very close to Silent Cloud, but are taking on an onslaught towards the players of TRZ first, as we had mentioned, just and we had seen as well. But now it is not looking good for the side of BhaiBrotherS because their position has been caught off guard, and it is going to be TRZ who has been eliminating one by one all of the players from BhaiBrotherS. So not looking too good, but XBROTHERS very close they are to TRZ's approach, and this might be the moment that XBROTHERS were waiting for.
Exactly, it's so the case, but King's GG's location has been spotted down. He has been taken down. Atomic, a precise spray, M416 and 3x. He has been successfully taking him down, and Sherlock also makes sure that he will be taking the rest of the player down. That means both the teams are mutually fighting there in its own way. In all these fights, it is gonna be TRZ that will be getting the benefit of the advantage that they were holding for now. But they are now trying to deploy some of the smoke. What I can see from the looks of it, TRZ's players are also brought down to just the two players alive. But XBROTHERS, they are utilizing every sort of thing that is coming in its way. They were trying to find themselves into that exclusive drop, but so was not the case because Atomic was the final nail in the coffin, and now it is all down to three teams. 6 player alive, where Abir is also making it pretty difficult for Silent Cloud to come out of the blues. On the other hand, it will Atomic be able to give revival to STFU? If he does, TRZ again will be 2 men strong, and with Abir pinning down the players of Silent Cloud from the left hand side, it will be an all easy for TRZ to get close towards the chicken. But it seems that Abir has the exact location. He knows that smoke is already there, but once he tries to find himself in the open, as he was just trying to put him down and slowly and simply go into zone, he was spotted down and he has been taken down. That means the game is into the final stage. 8 circle is what we have approached to, and we still have 2 teams, 5 players alive in the last stage of the game, where some grenades and utilities are being used to perfection to pull down the players of Atomic and from the sides of TRZ. And this is certainly not going to be an easy task for TRZ.
Well, it certainly is not looking easy, that's true. But Silent Cloud are not making it easy as well with the nade parade that they are bringing on along. And of course, they've created this wonderful flank angle as well between the sides of Kobiraz. And again, Rage Kid being on the forefront itself and Sparrow being right behind that rock. So again, an amazing turn of events that could very well favor Silent Cloud. But will TRZ be able to retaliate? It's looking like they are trying to do so. Of course, the smoke is going to be created for them to get outside and into the zone itself, but the compensation will not stop there because, after all, when it comes down to TRC's approach, do not have a cover, and Rage Kid is certainly not going to allow Atomic or STFU to push on along. As we can clearly see, Sparrow has just completely suppressed TRZ Atomic's rotation, and Kobiraz, as we can clearly see down on our screen, is making that perfect flank angle. So an amazing turn of events from the side of Siren Cloud, where Rage Kid and Sparrow are making the noise, and it is Kobiraz who is jumping in to complete the fight.
Definitely now Atomic is just getting impatient and he is trying to run in the open, and the big mistake that he has committed, and this will lead to demise of TRZ Esports. And with this chicken, the last chicken of this day, the 4 of semi-finals goes into the name of Silent Cloud, and 11 kill, 15-19 damage, and straight jump onto the 11th total leaderboard.
Wow, amazing. I mean, we talk about one good game that can leave you from the final page of the leaderboard. That is the kind of game that we need. And this time around, actually, it was exactly what we were talking about in the pre-game segment. We would like to see teams that are on the bottom half of the leaderboard to outperform the competition, and they have done so perfectly. I mean, we saw XBROTHERS chiming in, we saw Siren Cloud chiming in, we saw, of course, TRZ Esports being the exception, but amazing turn of events from that team as well. Moving on to the MVP, are going to be looking at Kobiraz with that amazing flank that he was able to create with Rage Kid and his teammate. 6 kills, 883 damage, along with the 3 assists as well. So phenomenal turn of events for the lad of Silent Cloud with only 33 healing done.
Exactly, a very good game coming in. Just a 33 healing done in the whole course of the match. This shows that the player either has been able to dodge out those grenades or made it sure that the rest of the teammates from his side gets the most of those advantages in his own way. But for now, let's head to the top 4 players of this match, where we get to see again Atomic TRZ. I'm not surprised with the way Atomic is again featuring in this whole chart, and this is a good band to the competition, because earlier we get to see a Mamba in the same play, but now it is some other player from that side, and that is going to be Atomic. But with this, we head towards a match summary, where we get to see TRZ's players also. That is STFU, that maximum assist list, and that was of 5, and that is certainly a big number.
Well, in that event, so talking about big numbers, Talent Cloud walking away with 26 points, find themselves at first on the 11th spot of the overall rank, and move on down from that with only 1 point away. It is going to be TRZ Esports with 13 kills and 12 points, and right below them, again, XBROTHERS chiming in with another wonderful synergistic play, bringing them 7 kills and 8 points, so 15 points in total to that team. BhaiBrother are amazing that they were able to sustain for that long and get those placement points again. 13, so that's what means when you try and be just patient. BhaiBrother was so very patient in those final moments, and even though they had a really good idea of the other teams around them, from Silent Cloud to, of course, AOD Esports and the likes, they did not retaliate. They did not fire. They were just so very quiet, and that resulted in them walking away with 10 placement points. So CG play indeed, and of course this will be showcased on the overall ranking in their favor. But teams like Mortem, DoD, BFS, this time nowhere to be seen.
The TRZ are also a team that I really had my eyes set upon. Just the 1 to 2 points is certainly not going to help the course and the objective with which the whole team dropped onto this match. But sadly, it was not the case for VNM Legends 2, as they were also pinned down in this open. The player really were just impatient, and they just really didn't pay heed to that there might be certain traps that was laid down eventually. It was a BFS that was trying to make a third party, and then RudeDude, and then multiple teams, and then we shifted, and the action shifted towards the area of that King of an Hill situation, where the players were really to fight. But then it was A1 Esports that players were put down by the guys of VNM Legends, that they made sure that VNM Legends will be completely eliminated. But I like the way XBROTHERS showed an intent to big fight against big team, and that was of A1 Esports.
Most certainly, and we move on along with 10 teams still remaining. This is when we saw AOL Esports' demise, and it was thanks to, of course, the spray and play coming in from the side of X
Oh,
Brothers.
look at that! That's
Incredible
such a
play.
nice grenade.
Yep.
1 point. This is expected. BX Brothers players actually maneuvered this game. They were knowing that if we are throwing a grenade to that same place, there might be a case that the player might be falling down and trying to retreat from the side position. And that was a preempted grenade. That was the second grenade that came in, and that led to the demise. So, a brilliant gameplay coming in, a high IQ gameplay coming in from the sides of X Brothers.
Most certainly, and in that, we move on with that, move on to the final moments of the game itself, where it was, of course, Silent Cloud against the players of TRZ Esports. TRZ Esports held their ground really well, but it was, of course, the numbers advantage that worked in Silent Cloud's favor. With that, TRZ Esports walking away with 222 points in 15 games that they have played. TRZ Esports right on their toe with 199 points with 2 chicken dinners in their favor. VNM Legends on the 4th, BIP taken on to the 3rd, and the 5th, of course, has been taken over by IPGx.
I mean, indeed, just a 23 total lead with what A1 Esports is sitting at the 15th position. And we'll get to see once A1 Esports comes into action, because tomorrow, I guess, it will be a day where BNC will be going head to head. That means TRC also will be playing whenever A1 Esports plays, because both the teams are in the Group A stage. But that means Watching Pajamas might be playing their game in today and tomorrow's game, where they really have a good chance to get close towards the total 200 mark. On the other hand, it was Mortem ES that they still made the cure to find themselves in the top 14 with the BhaiBrother's with 600 points. Silent Cloud, and they just went down on this match. They made sure that the game was certainly in their favor, and a chicken already into the game, and that certainly helped their course. But is it enough for all the teams from 12 to 16 that once the team from Group C comes into action, they will still be holding on the same position?
Well, that is so true indeed. But moving on to the final page. Now, this is where teams that have played 15 games, they only have 5 games remaining, whereas the other teams that have played only 10 games, they still have the opportunity to move on along. And in that, of course, we talk about SLX, we talk about BFS, we talk about TRZRA. They are close if you look onto the points itself, but will it be enough? That is the question. Will it be enough? I mean, they've got 5 games remaining. They can bring in the best play that they possibly have ever done and move on to the 16, into the top 16. But again, there are other teams who've only played 10 games, and if they play those games absolutely to perfection, then these teams will be sent back to the final teams of the leaderboard. So sad, yes, but all they can do is probably give their best and hope for the best.
Indeed, it is, because at the end of the day, it's just the hope and the effort that you put in on a certain day. And certainly, it was an A1 Esports day where we get to saw a lot of frags, a lot of damage, and a lot of knockouts that certainly went into the game, went to their favor. Head towards the kill leaders, we get to see Jack again, the guy, the lad from A1 Esports has certainly dominated the day. And also, A1 Esports' sister making a close in with a total of 31 kill what he has been able to secure. But damage as far, Jax is leading, kill as far, Jax is leading, but TRZ Mamba knew this was a day where I guess the first 2 to 3 game was certainly not the game of TRZ. But then when Mamba Atomic started chiming in, TRZ really made it possible for themselves. But Watching Pajamas Beam also joining in the overall leaderboard, as we can get to see a lot of different players from different teams starts featuring in this list.
Most certainly, and on the 8th position, we do have X Brothers Sherlock right there. Now, X Brothers also did play pretty phenomenally today. They did showcase that they are here to fight and they are here to participate in the top 16 in the $30,000 prize pool. And that is something that is, of course, being showcased with the playstyle that X Brother brings and the kind of playstyle that is required for them to do so. Along with that, though, the journey has not yet completed. We still have 2 more days of the semifinals, and we shall see which team rather, will finally move into the top 16.
Definitely, the top, I guess, top 10 to top 11 is certainly looking good for now. But
True.
I really want to talk about the point with which the teams have distributed upon. It was 68, 68, 67, 67. From 16 to
Exactly.
22, where close to 5 to 16s were already there. Eventually, the team that was on the 17th position with 68 total points and BFS on 21st point, if I'm not wrong, they just have 1 point difference. So that means tomorrow's gameplay, we can see a lot of changes, and some teams from Group A and B that have still not performed good will be unfortunately be on the third half of the chart. But for that, we have to still wait because tomorrow's game we'll get to see Group B and C going head to head. That means one thing for sure: the 20 total matches of Group B will be getting exhausted for semifinals.
Exactly. And of course, that is a conversation that we shall leave for tomorrow because right now, we can do is speculate, but eventually it will be the play and the gameplay that those teams are going to bring to the table that will
Yeah,
define their top 16 positioning or rather the overall positioning, simply put. Because
yeah,
after all, once again, only only 16 teams move into the final, $30,000 prize pool. No, which team will not want to participate, right? So fingers crossed for all of these teams. And again, thank you also very much for tuning in. Thank you to, of course, Oppo F90 Pro for making it all happen. I'll see you again tomorrow on Get. Until then, everybody take care. Sign out.